Hello, filter-free America listeners. We are back together again, and I could not be happier. I am. I every time an episode ends, I was thinking back in my head, was that the last one? Will I ever get to communicate with the good Filter-Free America podcast listeners again? Because you never know, right? You never know when your last moment on earth is going to be, or when everybody says, fuck your podcast and moves on to another one, because there's plenty of options out there. But regardless, you're back here, and I love you for it. I appreciate you. All right, let's talk about the episode today. Okay, this whole episode, for the most part, kind of centers around driving without a license. Yeah, I know, kind of an obscure topic, but it's something that was in part of my life for about 7 years of my adult life. I drove dirty. I drove without a license, right? Because I was dumb, right? I got a driving no license, driving no insurance ticket because my license was suspended, and I was like, fuck insurance, and I kept getting those. I got like 2 or 3 of them in a line. So there for a while, I was just like, fuck it, I'm going to drive whatever, lost some cars in the process. So this applies to me. And why I wanted to talk to the guest about this, because he did the same stuff, and he got kind of wild with how he dealt with it, okay? Let me tell you a little bit about him, okay? The guest, his name is, we're not using his real name, because surprise, surprise, he is still riding dirty. He still is, right? He still drives without a license right now today, so I don't want to identify him by name for obvious reasons. So we're going to call him Frank. Fast Frank. We'll call him that, all right? So Frank started his whole driving life, right when he got his license. He started out from the gate, from the flip, right out the door, driving like he had a death wish, right? He was one of those guys before the movie Fast and Furious was a thing. He was driving fast, and I assume he was furious, and I don't know if that ties into the movie or not, but he was driving fast. He had half the movie down, okay? He was driving fast, street racing, driving like an asshole, a little bit of exhibition driving, right? A little stunting, stuff like that. But, of course, as a result, he lost his driving privileges. That's what happens when you cure too many tickets, and whatever state your license is says, fuck you, pay me, and they take your license away, okay? But here's the deal. Much like me, in the 7 years I didn't have my license, he didn't stop driving either, right? And that led to things like arrest and jail, right? But when he started getting pulled over and arrested, that's where the story starts to get a little bit weird, because unlike me, when I just said, okay, I'll take my ticket, and rolled over like a bitch, he said, fuck that, I'm going to fight this shit any way I can. And he did. And he did things like hunger strikes and peaceful resistance when he was in jail. And also using obscure language and laws to kind of manipulate the system in his favor, right? And he was having a kind of a fun time doing it. But it was all fun and games until something that he said in court led to a visit from the FBI. Now, I'll let you know ahead of time, a little spoiler alert here. The FBI part is a very small component of this, right? It was just basically he said the wrong thing at the wrong time, and they came to his door. But from there, some other weird shit went down, and his whole fight with the courts and everything else was a crazy story. And like I said, he's still driving dirty, so it still kind of is a crazy story. But he's going to tell us all about that. We're going to start out learning why he lost his license, and then get into all the ins and outs of his court battles involving driving without a license. Yeah. So before we do that, real fast, let me send a shout out to the sponsor of the website, simplewebsite.us, simplewebsite.us, simplewebsite.us. As you know, that's where you go if you would like some help building a website using the Squarespace website builder, right? That's what they do, right? They take this Squarespace website builder and they do all the work for you, right? right? Especially for people like me who aren't the most computer functional, okay? I need all the help I can get. So I just turned it over to them. I'm like, hey, look, do this little podcast thing. I would like a website built. I want this, that, and the other thing. And, well, they just did it. And they did it quickly, and they did it right, and they maintain my website to this day. If you'd like to find an example, go to the Filter Free America website right now, filterfreeamerica.com, filterfreeamerica.com. America always intentionally misspelled with the letter K, and you will see the website they've built for me and that they maintain for me, and it's awesome. And while you're there, you can find all kinds of links to the Filter Free America podcast, social media. You can find the Facebook page, the Twitter page. I don't really have a specific Instagram page, but there is a link to my Instagram, which is the de facto Filter Free America podcast Instagram page. So you can find all that. You can also communicate with me directly. There's a little tab that you can click and send me a message. So if you want to complain about something, compliment me on something, or send me dirty pictures, you can do that right there. And all those things would be appreciated. Anything else there I need to promote? Oh, yeah. There's you can find links to all the places you can listen to the Filter Free America podcast. So if you just found us randomly and say you prefer the Stitcher app as your listening platform of choice, well, you go to filterfreeamerica.com and you will find a direct link to Stitcher there, as well as all the other ones, iTunes, Google Play, everything else. I think I got a few more I need to update, so I got to send that to the Simple Website, have them update the website for me. All right. Anything else I need to mention previous or prior to us kicking off here? No. So we do need a name for this episode. And of course, if you're aware of what's going on, you press play on this episode. You've already seen the title. And the title is Sovereign Citizens Riding Dirty. Sovereign Citizens Riding Dirty. I'm not going to explain that too much. I'm just going to leave it out there. Some of you are going to understand the reference. Some of you are not. But that's what we're going to call that. Are you good with that? Yeah, that's right. Okay, good. All right, so let's kick it off now. Here we go. Sovereign Citizens Riding Dirty with Frank right here on the Filter Free America podcast. Let's go. All right, Frank, why don't you start your story by telling me kind of the beginning of your issues as far as driving goes? I know you were in Arizona. I want to know what kind of lifestyle is in relation to driving were you living that led to where we're going?
I was a dumb kid who had moved 350 miles away from his parents 2 weeks after he graduated high school. And then like 2.5 months later, figured out like that my parents had split up, and I went through an I don't give a shit phase for a while. I don't know if anyone else has ever experienced one of these, but like when
I did yesterday.
Yeah.
Constantly.
When you're 18 years old and 350 miles away from anyone that can tell you what to do, it's a very dangerous mind frame, you know.
Right.
Yeah. And I drove very recklessly, to say the least.
Right. Was driving has always been, and automobiles are still are, as I understand, a strong thing in your life, something that you're into.
A huge passion. I'm an auto racer by trade. Like, I've learned to take my road aggression out on video games instead of on real roads.
Right.
Which I think is important. You know, like on video games, I'm proud to like be like in the top 10% of like national ranked drivers.
What about if we get like in the future when like the totalitarian or the police state has gotten to such a state that they even regulate speed on video games. Ooh, and then you get like tickets sent to you as you're driving. That would be
That's a separate podcast for sure.
That's a total dark turn of the world that you have to follow laws in video games too.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you can't shoot this guy anymore. That's weird. It's too much like life. So anyway, you were driving recklessly, racing, street racing. Is this what's going on?
Yeah. So from the time frame of Arizona, yeah, like I was a street racer sort of thing. I was at the drag strip a lot when I was a kid, but. You know, I also.
But you were trying to get to the drag strip very quickly.
Yeah.
Before you could race.
Well, I was dumb enough to get a job as a lot attendant at a Mitsubishi dealership, and during the time frame, they had some pretty fast turbocharged cars.
Right.
And they would just toss me the keys of this 300 horsepower thing and tell me to go gas it up. And, it's...
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Put it through its paces.
Yeah,
through the whole thing.
and I got the job because my roommate came and picked me up, and I didn't want the job. I told him I didn't. I was getting free food as a manager at Taco Bell. I didn't need another job.
Right.
But he come and he picked me up in this all-wheel drive turbocharged Mitsubishi.
Okay.
And he's like, "You got to go for a ride with me." I'm like, "Yeah, all right. I love car rides." So we get in, and we go to the lot of this Burger King down the road, and he goes, "Watch this," and he just holds his foot to the floor, and the RPMs of the engine just start bouncing off the rev limiter. The whole thing's just, bah, 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 and it just drops the clutch, and it's all-wheel drive, so the thing just goes, bah, 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 bah.
Right.
And then we're doing 60 by the end of the building.
Right.
And I looked at him, and he's like, and he looks at me, and I'm like, and the dealership was right next door to where he did this with me. And he goes, "So you filling out an application?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess I am." And that's and we kind of egged each other on, but he was a son of a cop, so he was better at getting out of tickets than I was. So.
Right. At least at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a thing. Just another side tangent. I've been watching a lot of YouTube. Everybody watches a lot of YouTube videos, but I've been watching a lot of people who, with their cameras set up in their cars, and like they drop a car off for service.
Yeah.
And then now they're catching all the people at the dealerships hot riding their fucking cars and shit.
There's certain cars they wouldn't let us lackeys drive.
Right.
There was a couple of times, like we had a Mitsubishi 3000 GT come in one time.
Okay.
And we were chomping at the bit for it. And the salespeople knew why, and they told us no.
Right.
But then there were other times where they would buy these cars that Tucson, Arizona couldn't sell, and they were always the turbocharged sports cars.
They couldn't sell them
because they bought too many of them for whatever
reason.
reason.
I thought you meant like they were banned in Tucson.
Like they just bought too many of them, and so it would be a dealer-to-dealer transfer. And you would go into work one day, and they'd be like, "Hey, you guys are going to get free dinner, and we're driving you down to pick up 3 cars, and it's you, your roommate, and the other cool oil change guy that you were like, it's like your boy band,
right?
All going down to pick up these 250 horsepower cars, and then bet each other who can be the first ones back. This
was a long time ago when 250 really meant something.
Yeah, and I remember walking into the dealership the next morning or whatever, the next day for work, and the lead sales guy pulls me aside because I was the only one on the schedule that day. Everyone else was smart enough to take the day off after doing what we did. And he goes, "I want you to know that I got a call from the Arizona Highway Patrol, and he reported that there was 3 Mitsubishis coming from Tucson to Arizona last night with no plates on them at all. They had dealer plates on them." And I said, "Huh. There were 3 other Mitsubishis driving from Tucson, Arizona to Phoenix last night." And he looks at me and he goes, "Get in the back."
I knew I saw them pass me. I wonder what those kind of cars.
His name was
going
Tex.
so fast.
Yeah, his name was Tex, and he was a stereotypical.
Of course, his name was Tex.
He was as stereotypical as a Phoenix auto salesman got, man.
Never been to Texas in his life. Call me Tex.
Yeah. Had an ex-wife there though.
So that was your mentality. You're driving fast. You're pushing the limit.
Yeah.
You're let's see. This was 98. When was Fast and the Furious? When that movie came out?
Oof. That was when I lived up here.
Okay,
so that was like 2000, 2001. But yeah, I raced there.
So it wasn't like you were living out you were the inspiration for Fast.
Yeah, I was probably
like
Paul Walker saw me speed by him one time in downtown Phoenix, and he's like, "I bet you I can write a movie about that loser."
It's the same way he killed himself. Too.
Yeah,
That's awesome. I do it. He's like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's do that." So as this is going on, you're getting pulled over eventually.
Yeah, it started in a dealership car.
Geez.
For whatever reason, they were doing a manhunt with helicopters above and everything, and I thought it was a good idea to just like drop a clutch next to like some cops that were sitting at a gas station where I wanted to get gas.
Right.
And like it's so funny because like I remember this guy to this day. He was like 6.5 foot tall, like freckled redhead, like just like standard ginger, larger than life cop.
Right.
He looks at me and he goes, "Were you trying to get my attention?" And I was pumping gas. I wasn't paying attention to who had walked up behind me, so it like really startled me.
Right.
You see who it is and what happened, and you realize what you did. Yeah.
I guess so.
Sucks. Yeah, I've always like whenever someone catches me doing like some shit, like I'm not the kind of guy who's like trying to be in denial or like super sweats. I just like try and act as cool as I can about getting caught. You know.
I'm the same way with masturbation.
Yeah.
I get caught. I'm
want in on this?
Fucking jerking off.
Yeah. Yeah.
but not in a fast car.
Yeah.
So you got a ticket. What was the ticket that he gave you?
So he gave me a ticket for no proof of insurance because I was in a dealer's car and I didn't have their insurance card on me. And
How does that affect the dealer? Did it affect them in a certain
no,
kind
not
of
at all, because they just fired me a couple weeks later and didn't give me the insurance card to go to court with.
So they don't have a ticket. They don't have any
They don't
penalties.
have any kind of, I mean, if they'd have kept me on long enough, I'm sure, because the thing is like when I got let go, like this wasn't the first incident they had with me. Like there was a time where I was just really dumb and reckless. Like I got in a Firebird Trans Am TA one time, and I was doing like 80, 90 miles an hour down a city street, and the light turned red, and I realized I wasn't going to make it. So I locked up the brakes and just slid into a Midas.
Right.
And like nearly missed this like homeless lady that was just literally just pushing everything she owned in a shopping cart, and like chucked a bunch of rocks at her.
In your defense, if you were to hit the homeless lady and kill her, hit and killed by a Trans Am is pretty cool.
I've been really pretty good.
I mean, I'd rather get killed by a Trans Am
than
than
hit by a
Mitsubishi.
16-year-old kid driving that Trans Am. That's way less cool.
She wouldn't know.
And like I've just been like all of the really, really dumb things that I've done, and I haven't done like I like to clarify this by saying I haven't done dumb things in a very, 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 very long time.
Right.
That was a very like dark moment in my life. Like I was a teenager. I'm an adult now. You
Right.
know?
But you didn't learn yet, though.
But I suffer for the consequences to this day.
That's true.
Yeah, and I've been really lucky.
So that was the ticket that you got and you didn't deal with.
Yeah, well, I dealt with that ticket.
Okay.
That's why it's what the stem of all of my problems.
But you didn't pay for it.
I didn't pay for it. At the
Okay, so
time.
you just went to court and made an appearance?
Because I went to court and made an appearance because and the guy gave me a deal or whatever.
Right.
And then I was pulled over for another no proof of insurance ticket like a month later.
Okay.
And so I came back into the same judge, and he's like, well, if you can pay both of these off for $1,200, I'll let it slide, right? So like I quit college for a month and a half. I busted my ass off, came up with $800, like, and then went and spent that on something stupid that a 17-year-old kid spends $800 on.
And didn't pay the ticket.
Because I figured I was moving out of state and it didn't have any kind of bearing on my life, and screw those guys.
Right.
I was just in full-on rebel mode. Like, nope, I'm leaving the state instead. I'm not paying your ticket. I'm keeping my $1,200. Thank you. Goodbye.
Solid plan. Okay.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought it was a good plan at the time.
Okay, so from there, with this outstanding ticket,
Yeah.
you moved to California.
Which is where I come from. Yep.
Right, we moved back to California.
Moved back there.
Okay, so you get there, and you learned your lesson. You never drove crazy again.
I wish.
That wasn't. Tell me about
It got
California.
way worse. It got way worse before it got any better. The thing is that like I would do these really dumb things to just try and scare myself straight, and the more I got away with, the less I was scared.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And like I wouldn't say
Kind
that I
of.
was suicidal, but like I wasn't doing things that were indicative of someone that wanted to live either.
That's fair.
Like.
I want to live, but I'm not going to work hard at living.
I mean, one time I was doing 90 through this pass that I was really familiar with, and this Geo Metro tried flying by me, and I was doing 90, and I felt really offended. So, like,
see, if I was ever driving a Geo Metro, I'd want to kill myself. I would be.
Well,
I would be where I would be.
Like I got an inch
Like
off
off the
his
side of the road
I
somewhere.
got like an inch off his bumper and almost caused an accident.
Okay.
I did some really bad things in cars because I thought I was invincible. Like,
Gotcha.
I'd come around a corner in the wrong lane and there'd be a car there and I'd have to figure it out or die. And thank God I never died. I always
should actually
got it
have
right.
you as a designer on these video games
Yeah.
that you play now. This would be.
Yeah. Well, and that's the beautiful thing about these video games is that I am that guy that when I was younger, absolutely you fear about me being on the road. I was and like incredible luck. I'd like to pass it off as ego and skill, but no,
Right.
I was just a really dumb, lucky kid.
Right.
That's it.
You weren't like Hogan's kid. Wasn't Hogan's kid who had a drifting car and he killed his buddy in the car?
Yeah. Thank God that I didn't have a dad that was dumb enough to give me 600 horsepower. What a
Jesus
dumbass.
Christ.
Yeah.
So in that time in California, you're pulled over
A bunch more times.
a bunch more times.
Bunch more.
Are we talking
some of
4
them
or
are pretty
5?
historical.
Are we
Like,
talking?
So one guy got me for doing 120 plus and a 70.
Is this your record?
This is my
Your record
I
ticket?
was doing at the time that he got me. I was doing about 110. Like I passed him doing about 134, 135.
Right.
I had a car that would do 140 all day long, and I would drive pretty recklessly through highway traffic because it's like I had cops try and catch me before and fail.
All right.
Right? Because when someone flips on their lights and you're going twice as fast as them, you have time to react before they can catch you, you know?
Right.
The guy who got me good was someone who had as much skill as me, you know, or as much luck as me. I don't know what you want to call it. But he got right behind me before he flipped his lights on, and you know he had me, you know.
Right.
And once they're behind you and you got your license plates, kids, pull over. It's done.
What were you
done,
driving?
You're done. I was driving a 1990 Mazda Protege. Yes, it did 140.
Okay.
It's a Car and Driver article if you want me to really reference it. It's
Was it V6?
No, it's just a little 4-cylinder, man. It had the Miata engine. They were doing testing for the future Miata engines. So.
Okay.
But it was my dad's old car that I inherited and hot rodded because I went to automotive school. So it wasn't super fast, but it was capable of doing 120 to 130 pretty much all day long.
Okay. What was the cop driving?
Oh, just a regular, like your Crown Vic or whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a cop pull me over in a Bronco one time, and I was really pissed at my friend that he didn't pick him out.
Like was it
Yeah, because the top
painted as a cop car?
Yeah, the top speed of a Bronco is like 85 miles an hour.
At best, yeah.
Yeah, I was like the whole time, I'm like, I could have gotten away from him, you stupid asshole. I didn't know like that I was just lucky that the cop probably saved me from ruining someone's life. Yeah, so the guy that caught me at 120 plus, like he gets me to the side of the road and he like I rolled down my driver's window thinking that like that's the window he'd come to, and he flings open my girlfriend at the time's passenger door.
Right.
And he goes, "Get the fuck out of the car right fucking now!" And he's like foaming, dripping at the mouth.
Is it
yelling.
guns drawn or is
No,
it? Okay.
no, just like super alpha male, like wide body. I could have like tagged him twice.
Right.
You
That's
know?
that's how I know it was back in the day. Cause
Yeah,
they
it was
would've
just
shot you.
adrenaline flowing. Well, and there was 2 white kids in the car too. You know, I'm
yeah.
not saying that cops in Southern California profile, but they definitely profile.
They definitely do.
And
Watch your hands on the table so that they echo through the mic.
Yeah.
No worries.
So, matter of fact, I'll take my watch off so it doesn't keep clanking around.
Nice.
So, yeah. So I get out of the car, scared shitless. Scared.
Right.
I keep forgetting I can curse on this podcast.
Yeah, please. It's encouraged.
So I was like scared shitless, get out. He tells me that I better start doing jumping jacks to explain why I needed to be going that fast. And I started doing jumping. I was scared. I'm scared. And I think the jumping jacks kept me from going to jail. Because he told me, like after that, he settled me down and he leveled with me. And he goes, this is what he goes, you know how many people are out here drunk on drugs driving around that you could have hit or could have hit you? And like in my head, the smart ass teen is just like, why aren't you pulling them over? You know,
Right.
but like, and I used like, the kid in me was just like, yes, sir, no, sir. Like anything he wanted to know. Like, you know, I was just like, yeah, I realize I'm dumb. You know, I'm trying to get my girlfriend home past curfew. Her mom's going to kill me. Well, you're going to kill your girlfriend. Yes, sir. I know, sir. You know,
But she'll be home on time, dead.
yeah. But so he lets me go without any proof of insurance or no proof of registration.
Let you drive away?
Registration's- Yeah.
Holy shit.
A year out, because that was the first time I got nailed when I got back. I went,
Okay.
I
Oh,
went-
he gave you he gave you a
yeah,
pass.
because I was cool about it, and I stopped, and he actually, I mean, he complimented me on my driving, and you know, like he said, don't ever do it again. He goes, I'll catch you.
Right.
But you know, that was nice. You know,
He saw a little bit of him in you.
yeah,
That's what it
something.
was.
I don't know what it was, but he let me that night. He let me go,
So
and that
at
was
that
the first
time,
time I had been pulled over, moving back to the state.
this is year 2000-ish.
Yeah.
So
well,
at this
just
time,
before, this would have been 99.
is he not running your information? And if so, is that stuff in Arizona is not caught
Yeah,
up
so
to you yet?
I don't think it's caught up to me yet at that time. It's not
Okay.
it's not a new system like it is today, where all that stuff just kind of gets reported.
I didn't know everything,
You
no.
know, well, and I didn't find out about that system until I moved to Minnesota, and they have that system, and I found
Okay.
out about it quick.
So, but after you got that ticket, that was kind of you moved
So,
or you choose to
I
move
got
at the
pulled
time, or
over
what?
like 2 or 3 more times after that, right? And
Okay.
on the third time, I wasn't even speeding. There was like an undercover car behind me. I was on the mall, my way to the mall to get pictures taken with my girlfriend. And like the undercover saw that my tag was 2 years out and like called a street cop. And I got like, basically I was like, oh, I need to get away from this
State.
whatever this secret cop is. And I turned the corner and there was the guy waiting for me.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking I was getting away from him and he was already calling me in, you know. And so they repoed my car at that point because, you know, like at that point they have a pretty extensive California record of what I've been
Right.
doing. and I still have no insurance, and I still have no
Not repoed your car.
registration.
They towed your car.
Towed my car.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, they took my car.
Whatever, it would be crazy. Like, no, we're taking
Yeah.
your car and we're selling it.
Yeah, I've never had a car repoed, but I've definitely had one taken by the state.
Me too.
Yeah, so they took my baby, a thing that's been in my life since I was 12 years old, and I realized at that point that I couldn't I couldn't afford my lifestyle that I was living in Southern California. Like life had gotten really rough for me. It's time to move.
Right.
And like these legal things that I kept running from were just like, that was my pattern at that point.
So this time in your mind, are you logically thinking that I'm just going to keep moving state to state every time I acquire these tickets to get another license, or what was your? How did you? How
I had already started.
Played out in your mind.
I had already started to slow down a lot after like the second time. Like the guy in the Bronco pulled me over, and I was like looking for insurance in a glove box that I knew wasn't there.
I've done that. I don't know where it is.
Yeah,
officer.
and the cop goes,
here.
"What's that other ticket?"
Oh Jesus.
And so like he made me pull it out and read it to him, and he was like, 120 plus, huh? Or 110 plus, huh? Seems like someone's got a speeding problem, you know? And like, so I realized that like, as much as I had some luck in the past getting away, I wasn't going to keep getting away every time. And I needed to change. I keep thumping on the table.
Right.
I needed to change something about that. And so after that night, I did start to slow down a little bit, for sure.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I got to Minnesota and realized that I just needed to lie low and under the radar until I got my license that I really kind of just settled into my natural driving habit, I guess.
Right. So when you get here, you know these tickets are on your record, then they're going to become.
So I'm like, get a driver's license as soon as possible and hope that these guys don't look at other states, because some states do and some states don't. Okay. And I didn't look it up. You know, this is pre-Google, pre-internet, really. You know, it's the beginning of or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, I went down. My sister, who had never had a driver's license in her life, went down like 2 weeks before and exchanged a California ID for a Minnesota license. Like sometimes you just get someone really dumb and gullible at the office, and you know
it just works.
It just works. And so
I'm saying pre 9/11 things were a lot more loosey goosey.
Well, absolutely.
So they didn't give a fuck.
Like,
this
was just before 9/11, and so I tried to go in there and do something similar, and she sniffed me out. Okay. You know, and the funny thing is that they never found out about my California record.
Really?
Yeah.
It was the Arizona record they caught it first. That makes sense. Yeah.
And the only one, because I never went to court for any of the things that happened in California, like there was warrants out for my arrest, but like my driver's license wasn't canceled yet.
Okay, so this is one of the lessons here. Is like if you get a charge like that, if you make an appearance, then it becomes court record. Then it becomes a different level within the system.
The funny thing is that I would probably have my license today had I never went to court in Arizona in the first place. And I'm not advocating people not to go to court. I'm not, because there's a 7-year limit about 7-year statute of limitations, and if you are a big enough asshole, they will come and get you.
Right. But if you don't appear, then it just kind of sits as an open warrant.
Yeah. And after 7 years,
it just disappears.
It just disappears. And I'm sure I haven't looked into it in years, because, you know, they haven't really come after me.
I didn't even realize it, because we'll talk about the cars I had. My thing wasn't speed.
Yeah.
Right. It was more of not paying for insurance.
Just can't afford insurance.
Right. Well, not that I couldn't afford it. Like that's money I don't want to give.
We could do a whole podcast on that, because that's a huge racket too, and they're forcing me to contract into a service. Basically.
Right. Well, the thing, and plus at that time I'm buying cars for cash, so I'm not having car payments. As now if you buy a car and you got to have insurance when you leave and all this stuff, like pre 9/11 was a magical time.
It was, man,
because you could just I'm gonna buy this car from you, give somebody cash, and they sign over the title to you, and now it's yours, and you can maybe send that piece of paper in, or maybe you don't.
Maybe you don't.
And as long as those tabs are still good, you're good to go.
Well, and I know,
and that's the way I did. I know how I got into my troubles.
I know a couple of people that'll do that, and then they'll sell the car right as the registration comes due.
Okay.
And then just buy another car.
And just keep flipping and keep flipping.
And that's how they do it.
Right.
I actually, matter of fact, I did that one time where I bought a car from a guy off of Craigslist for cash, and I didn't realize that he also had a suspended license.
You guys are fucking each other.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, so we did. We totally fucked each other, because he bought an S10 for me. Yeah,
which is a different way of finding somebody to fuck when you're on Craigslist. That's a totally different thing. That does make a lot of sense. Yeah, because nowadays, like when you buy a car now, Like they've got like the two things that tear off the title.
Yeah.
There's the one that you as the purchaser,
Well,
you
it's really funny.
you send it in.
It's part of my.
And then the one that the guy who sells it, they
Yeah.
can send it in to help cover their ass. Used to not be that way at all. Like you used to have the one.
Part of what I do for money is because I'm so good with cars. I help people buy and sell cars.
Right.
Whenever they have a car question, and I'm always the first person who's like, yeah, you send that in immediately. Like
Strictly car, not driver's license questions.
Yeah.
I hope you're not answering those for them as far as how to keep a driver's license.
Yeah, actually, you know what? It's really funny is that you learn a lot about driver's license law driving without a license.
Who are you telling?
Yeah.
I know way more than I probably ever want to know.
Yeah.
As far as mine.
Yeah.
So you didn't get the Minnesota license. They said no, you're done.
Yeah, so basically they said you're canceled in another state. You cannot drive in our state until you pay off the fines that you owe in another state. So
in 2000s, basically when the riding dirty really kicked in because now you're unlicensed.
Yes.
Your other license, everything's catching up with you. Mm-hmm. Now you're in the situation with this ticket. Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to think when's the first time I lost my license. And it had to be insurance related. And I was always that's always a expensive ticket. Seems like it was every time I got one, it was like a couple to $300 of no license, no insurance, expired license. Like it was just dumb laziness on my part. Like I didn't go get my license renewed and I didn't pay my insurance.
Yeah. I mean, that
was my thing.
And see, people always ask me, right? They'll be like, well, why don't you just get a license? Why don't you just pay the fine off? Why don't you just, why don't you just take care of this? And like what you talked about, where the fine is just like $300 or whatever, and like the other fine like is a huge fine. It's a giant number,
right.
And so I'm a fast talker, and like the first couple of times I had to go to court, first 10 years that I had to deal with the court system here in Minnesota, there's a couple of times I got away with an $80 fine,
right.
And I just learned that I can't drive cars in my name. It's just a dumb idea.
Right. That's one of my things is one of the cars I lost was when I had a 2003 Crown Victoria.
Yeah.
And the reason I got pulled over, I didn't commit any crime. I didn't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But this was, I wasn't hip to them doing the license plate scan.
Mm-hmm.
So that cop pulled me over because he scanned my plate.
Yeah.
The car was in my name.
Which is a huge infringement of your rights.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just like, well, as long as I don't break a law, I'm not going to get pulled over. Nope.
Right.
They were running the plate,
right.
And they saw that the person who owned that car was somebody who doesn't have an active driver's license.
The Constitution of the United States says that they have to have probable cause that you have committed a crime in order to do any kind of research on you at all, which means that they have to have a notice of a complaining party. You know what I'm saying? A third party has to call them and say,
you have to suspect you of a crime.
This guy has done harm to me or my property, and that is what constitutes a suspicion of a crime. You know? Them just being able to pull up behind you and scan your plate like that is a huge infringement of that. There's nobody suspecting you of anything besides the state, and the state is legally not allowed to suspecting you of anything unless someone else does.
Right. But I was the white dude that I am with a neck tattoo driving a retired police car, which is always a bad sign. If you're going to commit crimes,
there's a niche there, I think.
Yeah, it's a circle of life there. I don't know what the attraction is about felons or former felons in police cars, but I think it's something to be like. It's like a power dynamic thing. Like I used to get put in the back of these, so of course I'm going to buy one and drive one from the front this time. Mm-hmm. That's why maybe we were into the cop cars. But anyway, so that's why he ran my plate.
Yeah,
because I just looked suspicious.
Yeah, you're just a dude in a suspicious looking car.
Right, and that was losing that one. But there was plenty more.
Well, they love getting those things back and reselling them.
Right, it's true. Pass it on to another convicted felon. So now you're driving dirty, right?
Yeah.
It's 2012, which was the next time you're stopped that we're going to talk
about.
Yeah,
so I lived in Rochester from like 2000. So when I first moved here, I didn't live in the Twin Cities. I moved from San Bernardino, California, to Rochester, Minnesota, and I lived there for a number of years.
Right.
And then I moved up here.
But now you understand that the license is gone.
Yeah.
So if you're driving, how are you driving now? Are you
very
driving
cautiously?
Like an asshole? Okay.
Very cautiously. And I'll say this, like all the crazy stories that I talked about, all the dumb stuff that I've ever done, like I have never, knock on wood, been in an accident.
Right. And there's some about the driving dirty when you're driving without a license. Okay,
You're more
whether you're doing
careful.
something for crime or nothing, you are.
Yeah.
The best driving I ever did was like the stretch of time between. When did I move here? 2000 something. I'm about the same window actually, and because I just got mine back not too many years ago.
Yeah.
But it was about 7 years that I drove, and I was doing the best driving.
Yeah.
Now, I did get stopped along the way, got some
So-
drive no license tickets, got some cars repossessed. But in between that, I'm like full stops at stop signs. I'm watching speed limits like that. So maybe
knowing
the
where
trick is
every car, like you develop this 3D map around you,
Right.
And it's okay. So like I have a litmus test for people that think they're liberal minded, right? And that litmus test is the fact that you're not legally obligated to carry insurance, and it's a big scam, And everyone is like, oh, you have to. And the thing is that since the early '60s, insurance companies have lobbied the whole country to make you think that everyone's liability is not your fault. You know what I'm saying? Like your liability is everyone else's concern. And that's why we have to have insurance, is because the insurance companies weren't making money off of people just wanting car insurance regularly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
See, here's because I have libertarian views about some things.
Yeah.
But then I appreciate a lot of laws.
And I get
too.
that too. And
Right?
I get that.
Here's the thing about the insurance though, because that would make sense if we didn't need to be required of it. If everybody kept what the average cost of an accident is, and if you're liable for it, you have that cash in hand.
You're right.
So because I understand that, because if we're going to share a road system and everything like that, we do need to have insurance.
Yeah.
Because if I was to hit somebody or somebody was to hit me, or especially if I was to hit somebody and I was liable, I caused the accident and I didn't have the money to reimburse those people, and those people are just out of money, then
Well,
then
and every
that's
car.
that's why it's a dick move, and why is this in a shared society? I think it's important. Though I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
That if you're of the wealth and you can prove it, like, look, I have the average accident can cost $20,000 to $50,000. We'll say.
Well,
I've got that in the bank. Here's my certificate that says it's in a trust to protect me.
Yep.
So I should be now free to drive.
Right.
Without
a
insurance.
couple things to say to that, right? I'm trying not to lose my train of thought here. As far as like where insurance goes and how we're able to have it and why, I think it's a good idea too. And I'll say this, here's my train of thought. All the cars that I drive have insurance on them. Going back to when I first lost my license, I always have made sure that the cars that I drive have insurance on them. I don't do that. Like I cover my assets because I want people to be covered if I do have an accident, right? But let me give a brief synopsis without taking the whole podcast up about how insurance used to work before they pointed a gun at your head and said, buy it, right? So the way it used to work is you buy a new car. You don't want anybody to hit it.
Right.
You call AmFam up. You say, I need insurance. They say, would you like liability or full coverage collision? You say, I want liability.
Right.
I want it understood that if I hit somebody, their loss is covered, but I have to take care of my own loss.
Right.
And the insurance company says, awesome, cool. Here's your insurance packet. Costs this much. You go out and hit an uninsured driver, the insurance company still has to pay that uninsured driver. That liability covered driver, he's screwed, right?
Right.
You don't want to be screwed? Get full coverage.
Right.
Full coverage covers everything. If you have full coverage on your car and I hit you, guess what? You get covered.
So you can gamble with your property and the value of your stuff, but you can't gamble with the damage or the potential damage on somebody else.
That the insurance companies were having is that under that system, they weren't making enough money.
Right.
And they lobbied the government to change all of our minds so that we now think that everyone else is responsible for our liability, to the point where we force our own government to point a gun at our head and make us be insured.
Right.
And my favorite argument to bring up with people, going back to the fact that you drive safer when you're uninsured, is that there are 2 states in the nation. I think New Hampshire is one of them, and New Mexico. I'm probably wrong, but I know that there's 2 states that do not legally require you to have insurance. And they are some of the lowest uninsured states in the nation. and that
or lowest what?
Lowest uninsured states. Like there are more people. There are a fewer percentage of people uninsured in that state than like say Florida, that has a huge number of people uninsured, and they force you at gunpoint to get it. And my argument is, pointing a gun at someone doesn't force them to buy your service. And it doesn't. And my example is that someone like New Hampshire, or if I'm getting the state wrong,
whatever the state is,
but a state that doesn't force you to get insurance, I'm almost 100% positive it's New Hampshire. I just don't have my
Sounds like
phone.
they got a lot of weird laws.
They're like super free there.
Commonwealth.
Yeah.
They're weird.
But like basically by not forcing people to get insurance, people are still buying insurance. So that argument that like, oh, if we don't have laws to make people do this, people aren't going to do it. That's false.
Because they want that peace of mind.
Well, people are still going to want to insure their property, man. They're,
Right.
And to the point where they like you and me, we have the point of view where we don't think the government should force you to buy insurance, but we both carry insurance on stuff that we own.
Yeah. So to amend my position on that, yeah, I think that if you want to just have liability,
Yeah.
And nothing else, then that's perfectly fine.
Right.
Well,
And
as
if
long
you
as
wanna-
you've got money to pay for somebody else's injury or damage,
Yeah.
I think.
And
But I think that should be a minimum. They should have that.
And if you want to be the idiot that's out there driving around with no insurance and you hit someone who's only got liability insurance, you're probably going to go to jail, man.
Right. And again, you took that gamble. But here's
Yeah,
where it makes
and you
sense.
took that
If you
gamble.
drive a late 80s fucking shitbox car that cost you sub $1,000,
Yeah.
and you
People
over
are
10
making
years,
that
you
choice
drive over
already.
10 years, you've paid more in insurance
Yeah.
premiums than the
Yeah.
value of the car that you're actually driving.
People in Florida today where it was one of the highest like non-insured rates for per capita driver, right?
Right.
People there are still making that decision even when a gun's pointed at their head. You know, like there's like over 20% of the population in Florida is deciding, well, I know you guys are forcing me to do this by law, but I still can't afford it.
Right.
And John Oliver did an interesting special on this, where he talked about like how you get stuck in these misdemeanor law systems and you just never get out. And
Right.
I feel like a lot of what I've been through is part of that. Like I was really dumb in a really, really vindictive, mean state, Arizona, and like they attached a very high price to my head for 2 no proof of insurance ticket and a burnout ticket. That's
Right.
what I was charged for in Arizona and why I
Right.
don't have a license.
And we're going to talk about the total and how it got to where it is
Yeah.
towards the end.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And that's another thing to consider when you talk about that. And yeah, I get it. You
I was
don't
a
wanna
dumb
get
kid.
You don't want to get a
Right.
fines. Don't break the law. Don't do this. And
Right.
yeah, I get it. But even people, you got to allow people to make a mistake and learn from
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think driving without insurance or driving without a license is the most egregious mistake that you could make. Relatively minor.
Especially when you're not doing any property harm.
Right, exactly. So just being in the act caught of that. But here's how it doubles down and how it becomes kind of a situation like yours is not only do you got the ticket,
Yeah.
right? If you want good representation, you might have to pay for that when you
for
go to
sure.
court to deal with
Yeah.
that. And then it gets worse than there because 9 times out of 10 they'll tow your car,
Yeah.
right? Then you pay a tow fee,
Yeah.
right? If you don't have that money immediately to get the car out or a way to get it out, especially if the car's in your name, you don't have a license,
Yeah.
then it's almost near impossible to get it out. You have to transfer the title to somebody or have the car in somebody else's name.
But
Then every day it sits in that fucking thing. They're charging you 35 to 50. I know some places 50, maybe more than that, to sit in their fucking holding lot, acquiring more debt to the point where you may not be able to. Oftentimes, that was my case. It's like I didn't have a whole lot of money at the time, so I couldn't pay for this, that, and everything else, and get my car back. So now my car is just gone and it gets sold, and now I'm in a worse financial position because of it.
now you need another car because you still need to make money. You
Right.
know, like just because the state took your car doesn't mean that you're not going to stop driving. Like in America, you can buy a car for $200.
Right.
I can look on Craigslist and be in a running automobile tonight for $200.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can literally buy a car for less than you could buy most smartphones.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm
That's right,
saying?
Yeah.
And like, think about that. Think about if they tried to regulate cell phones to like they do driver's licenses, and how absurd that would be. Try and take driver's license law and apply it to anything else you do in life, and think about how absurd that is.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. I don't think they should be allowed. I'm thinking maybe in certain circumstances, but if you get paid over for no insurance stuff and or no license, no crime, no no crime other than that, you
Right,
didn't
you're
cause
not
damage, you didn't
damaging,
hurt
you're
anybody,
not-
you didn't run from the
yeah,
police.
yeah.
They shouldn't be able to sell your vehicle.
Right.
It should be on them to provide free storage because it's your fucking property.
Well, and we could do another podcast on that. The fact that you are literally paying for a license to drive property on roads they don't own.
Right. Roads that you've, in with the purchase of gasoline, have already funded.
Yeah. Yeah. And a public servant that is there to serve you is technically threatening your own life with a gun.
Right.
Over law that almost always breaks constitutional law and almost always, under the right questioning, loses under the Court of Appeals.
Well, you can get even deeper in the weeds on that one because when it comes to licensing of a car. We have to pay every month, and I fucking hate this state. Every time I think about cars and license plates, I get angry because I can finally now afford a car that's better than most cars that I've had before, every car that I've ever had before.
Yeah.
And it costs me way more because of the value of the year my car was made. It cost me 3 times as much as my other car.
Yep. First question I ask anybody
And why am I paying a different amount just because I can afford a better fucking car? That's ridiculous. Just to get a fucking little sticker on the back of my goddamn license plate to drive on the fucky ass roads that I've already fucking paid for that have potholes every 3 fucking feet. I'm sorry. This is very emotional, emotional issue.
First question I ask anybody who's looking for a new car is how much insurance can you afford? Because like people go in there going, oh, I'm gonna get like a 2018 new car. It's gonna be badass, and they get it home and realize, oh, your insurance payment just went up $500, dude.
Just because
you just got a car payment.
And I don't know if that's because it wasn't like that where I lived in Missouri. It wasn't like that. And maybe it's like that now. Maybe it's changed. I don't know if that's ever like that. But that's how it is in this state here. And I don't know how they can get away with that. I don't know why that's a thing. Like, why do the year of the car determines how much I have to fucking pay you and fucking hostage fees to the fucking king of this goddamn state to drive my own fucking property when the guy who has a car of less value, which is usually lower quality, which maybe leaks the oil because it's an older car. Yeah. It consumes more gas because it's less efficient, right? If you want to look at it that way, not that I want to put the onus on them to be responsible because they have to, they're in a position to drive an older car.
Yeah, man.
But why the fuck do I got to pay for that?
Yeah.
In that context, it should be a flat fucking fee. If you got a legal car and everything's right, if you want to do this, let's at least have just a hint of fucking fairness here, and we all pay $100.
Yeah,
I'll pay $100. I'll pay $100 a year to drive my fucking car and not have any problems with you. No problem.
You know what's really
Don't
funny
charge me more.
Is through the progression of everything I've learned throughout the years. Is I've come from a position where I was like a very left leaning like Democrat, like very just like socialist idea structure, like full on like anarchy now.
Right.
Like,
Well, that's these are the kind of laws that piss me off. These are the ones that swing me because I'm very liberal minded as well too, with exception maybe firearms and a few other things.
Yeah.
But this right here makes me want to be fucking as libertarian as fucking crazy because fuck you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I have 2 cars. The difference of manufacturer is 5 years.
Yeah.
And my one car cost me just below like $98 to get the tabs done right now, and it gets cheaper as it gets older.
And they do that with everything.
It's $300+.
They do that with everything. Try and put solar panels or windmills on your roof and see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, dude, There's state. I think that was an Arizona thing or something like that. Where they charge a surcharge for not using.
I know a guy I can put you in touch with right now that went to jail in Minnesota for using windmills on his property.
Really?
For using electric power windmills on his property. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because you're not consuming, because you're not, they got to tax you some kind of way.
Well,
so they make you a tax for not doing it.
That's really the war that's going on right now, is that like part of the war is that for the first time in human history, like we have the power to get off the grid. We have the power to stop using the man.
Right.
You know, like you could literally go out there and the technology is really expensive right now because they don't want the common man to have it. But the technology is out there so that you could power your own home without an exterior line from anybody.
Right.
You know, you could build your own power walls. Like I've seen people do it. There's YouTube videos of people that take old Priuses and the batteries that power your inhalers and stuff like that are the same batteries that power Priuses. I'm not even kidding you.
Right. It's just multiple cells.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of them. And so they take them apart and they build power walls out of them. And then, they get really creative and you can do a lot with power and technology, and it's only getting better and it's only getting cheaper, and they're losing, it's one of the reasons why there's so much pushback for so much more control now.
Exactly.
Is because they're losing ground on so much more thing. If they don't get control over us socially, they're screwed.
Right. But back to the we totally went libertarian there. But it all kind of compiles when we get to the end, when we talk about your total, it'll make sense.
Why I'm so anti-government. Yeah.
Yeah. So year 2000 to 2012, back to driving.
Yeah.
You're driving dirty.
Yeah.
Right. And this when things start to amp up, things start to get a little more serious.
So I moved to a bigger city. They don't buy my sob stereo as much because it's been over a decade. Right. And that's the thing, is like more time that goes past, the less lenient the judges get. They're like, just pay the fine, dude. Just get your life together.
Do you ever think about that halfway through? It's like, damn, if I would do this,
I've
back
been
when
so
it happened.
close a couple times, like people. And here's the really crazy thing is like I'm
like in year 2000, and we won't give away the total what it is now.
Yeah.
What did you owe in 2000 to get you back?
So
back
at one time, I was told by a judge that for $1,200 I could have this off my record, and that was the lowest it had ever been.
Okay.
The lowest it had ever been.
Okay. So it's gonna be shocking when we
for two no insurance tickets, and basically I was burning out. Exhibition of speed is what the ticket was.
Gotcha. Okay. So now you're in 2012. You're riding dirty. This is when the next time you get pulled over, right?
Yep.
Okay. So let's start from there.
So I'd already started to go to jail a couple of times. Like I just got done like a year or two before serving like 30 days in a workhouse or whatever. And like I'm self-employed, and so like I can sort of afford it. At the time I had a really rich girlfriend.
Right.
It wasn't rich, but anyway. So yeah, I'd already had a couple of run-ins, had to go to jail a couple of times, decided, and while I was in there, I met a dude who was like, I met a dude who was in his 50s, and he had to have a foot, and he was doing what I was doing, working on, he had to have a foot.
He didn't have a foot.
Lost it in the Vietnam War, dude, like just this really cool old dude, like black dude, and like, he did what I did. He was just a shade tree mechanic working out of his garage, and yeah, he was in there for 6 months, man. They had him in there for 6 months, and he just was sitting there for and he ran his own business, so he couldn't get out, so he had to watch everyone else. Because that's the thing, is like when you run a cash business, you can't prove to the state that you have an income and you need to get out of a workhouse.
Right.
So you just sit there and do.
Oh, because they wouldn't set up a payment plan with him because they weren't. There was no way to verify.
Dude, we're not letting you go use this no license to make money.
That's where tax comes in again, because you didn't. He's probably not paying taxes on his income, so he's not establishing a record.
So he was me 20 years in the future, and I was like, this isn't going to be me.
And 20 years in the future, you're going to be black and missing a foot.
I hope so.
Holy shit!
No. So fast forward a couple of years, 2012. I just decided, like, I just gone through a bunch of crap in life, and I just decided I was done taking shit,
Right.
And so, and I had done a bunch of research on like the sovereign citizen movement and Lysander Spooner.
Before you get into there, give me to the
22. So
when you got pulled over, why did you get pulled over?
So I got pulled over for the same reason we were talking about before. I was driving a car that hadn't been pulled out of my name yet.
Okay.
The software picked me up. The cop just kind of sat up a block or two and waited for me to drive by him.
All right. And don't tell me what the kind of car is specifically, just because I don't want him putting two and two together.
Yeah.
So you pulled out in front of him. What'd you say you did? Was a reason? They just random?
No, he told me. He's like, he goes, I pulled you over because you're driving after cancellations on your record.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
he
told me right away.
One time. Okay.
Yeah, and he asked for my ID, and I asked for his.
How do you respond to that?
Well, he arrested me.
So not well.
Yeah, not well. He towed my car and arrested me.
Okay.
But that was so. Basically, without getting into it too much, like the idea of most traffic stops is that they have a gun and they can force you to do contract with them.
Right.
Right. So
this is why and this is where we're getting into a little bit of the what you just mentioned, the sovereign citizen movement.
Right.
And the basically, and again, if anybody wants to get, we're not going to get into a lot of detail about that because we don't want to misquote anything, and we don't want you to suggest anything that.
And I'm not a representative of them,
right? And we don't want to influence anybody to make any decision on it. If you want to research sovereign citizen movement, please do that and look up. Charlie Sprinkle was one of the gentlemen, and Mark Stevens. You can find information on them online, and it talks about right to travel. And then it talks about challenging the legal system as it pertains to in this case it would be
tax
right to travel,
and licensing. Right to travel. Yep.
But in a nutshell, to wrap it up, it's just basically them questioning or challenging the government's authority over the individual,
where they got jurisdiction. It's basically and your defense is basically asking them where they got it. And legally, when a police officer or any agent of the government interacts with you, they have to present you with identification. So you're legally within your right every time you get pulled over to ask a cop for ID first.
Right.
They're never going to do it. You will go to jail before they will give you ID, because if they give you identification, they can be legally implicated in a crime.
Right. Now, an important part of this conversation here, as it pertains to what the sovereign citizen movement is talking about, is as far as getting pulled over, is you ever wonder why the police are so adamant that you sign a ticket?
Yes.
Why you have to sign a ticket? And you said, and you talked about it's you're debating the going into contract with.
They're basically, yeah. It's
Okay,
it's
and people misunderstand
Yeah.
what the term going into contract means. It's not like I'm signing, not like you sign a contract to play in the NBA or something like that. The minute you put your name on something, you're accepting responsibility.
Yes, and that's what they're basically doing.
You're signing that as your individual person, as your being.
But
you're assuming responsibility and accepting that, yes, I did do something.
Here's
right then,
something
and
most
agreeing
people,
to play their game.
Here's something most people don't know. You're constitutionally, legally not obligated to sign any paperwork any agent of the government gives you, up to and including any traffic fines.
Exactly.
They're misdemeanors. They're not felonies. There is no witness to a complaining party. They have no ground to stand on other than the gun that's in their hip. And please be careful when you interact with them, because you can lose your life being a smart aleck.
Right.
You have to be very careful. Very, very careful.
So what is and maybe it's very state to state, if you automatically refuse, like, yeah, I'll take the ticket, but I'm not going to sign it.
Oh, they'll take you to jail still.
Right.
If you refuse to sign that ticket at all, it's basically a challenge to their authority, and they will absolutely take you in.
Is that? I'm trying to think. Is that
then,
right? They arrest you for just not signing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and basically the process of that is, because I went through it,
right,
is they haul you in. And they say, we're going to
Oh, so you refused to sign.
So I refused. I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't even need to get that far to a ticket. I said, I'm not giving you any identification until you show me your identification. He put me in the back of a cop car, illegally searched my car, and then found my wallet.
Okay.
And then based on that, he wrote me a ticket that I was never going to sign anyway.
Okay.
He took me to jail. Once I got to jail, they're like, all right, we're time to start the booking process. And I go, I'm refusing your booking process unless you guys are forcing me with violence.
Right.
And that's basically letting them know that I'm not contracting with you unless you're forcing me. But once you do that, they have a legal right to hold you in what I refer to as a time deprivation tank, a holding cell.
Right.
It's a very small place where they purposely put the air conditioning on a couple degrees where they know psychologically humans are uncomfortable with.
Right.
You have a light on you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a concrete box where there's nowhere to get comfortable. You have a toilet to piss in, and you have a sink to drink out of if you're dumb enough to drink their water.
Right.
And it's basically designed to make the average psychological mind break.
Right.
They have 24 hours legally to break you and to get you to agree to contract with them.
Right. Get you to comply.
Basically, I went in there just really mad. Like, I just had a bunch of really bad things happen in my life. I was taking care of a family member. I was having a really bad go of it. And I was just really aggravated that I was like, on top of everything else, now this.
Right.
And so, I was really, I'm not really a suicidal person, but, my way of being suicidal is, let them kill me in here, right? And, so that was just it. I was like, I'm not drinking, I'm not eating. It's a misdemeanor. What are they going to do to me? What are they going to do? But I chickened out the first time. Because nobody knew where I was. I got picked up on my way somewhere, and I disappeared. I've been gone for, because basically they arrested me, and they're like, dude, just bond, and we'll let you walk out. I had no money over my head. They're like, you're an idiot. Just go through the booking process. We'll let you out. And that's how they get you. Just go through the booking process. We'll let you out.
Because
that
again is a place that you have to sign something.
Because that's how they get you to, you sign this. You hey, you did this. You did it. You signed right here.
Right.
We held a gun to your head and told you we were going to put you in a deprivation tank if you didn't sign it.
So what was your thinking at that moment then? Why are you resisting that? Is it because you don't want more? Is this a principle thing at this point? Or is this I already know I've got this much legal drama in regards to driving?
At this point, it's because I had done so much research on my own into the movement, and I had just gotten cocky. Okay. I had gotten so cocky that I wanted to know how hard.
So you're admitting this first time was a less than fundamentally educated.
I was dumb. I was
Okay.
so dumb that I scared the crap out of myself and bonded. I let them take me through the booking process. I let them do that.
Okay.
So I did that.
You've created a major red light for yourself by saying you were how did the sovereign citizen part
so
come
that
into
time
it?
I didn't. So that wasn't the time.
Oh, okay.
Where that came up, right?
Okay.
So basically, I get out on my own recognizance, no fine or whatever, with a future court date.
After the 24 hours.
After the 24 hours held in there, right?
Okay.
Ended up being like closer to 30 because once you cave, they don't let you right out
Right.
or whatever. So I drug that out for about a year and a half before I had to go to jail again for the same ticket.
And by drug it out, you mean
So
asking for changes of
and I don't want to
court
get
date.
yeah. I'm
like
not trying to give people advice on this at all, but yeah. So like,
well, I've done the same thing too. I was trying to keep my license from getting suspended because I knew if I was going to get one more ticket within this time frame, that it would trigger that suspension. But if I kept pushing the court date out, because it doesn't really count until it goes through court and process.
Well, and so I just took it as a I'm just giving myself more time to learn about how to fight these guys.
Okay.
Sort of aspect of it, right? So as I was putting it out, I got it all the way to pretrial, and then I went in and applied for an attorney, my own
Public defender,
right. Because I don't make much money, just enough to survive, but enough to get a public defender, because of my situation, and. So at the pretrial, I went through that, and then I got a public defender, and because of that, they had to restart the whole trial process from the beginning.
Right.
So then I got a couple more, and then I think they gave me like 1 or 2 more extensions before they stopped giving me extensions. And then I worked all the way back to the pretrial, and then I got arrested.
How long did you get in extensions? Did you get? Was it how?
I was like a year and a half, almost 2 years, man.
Okay,
like to
that's
the point,
about right. Where they breaking? Mine was just over a year.
Yeah, where
they
just. Well, and the thing is like I had already used up all of my extensions,
right.
And then when I got a public defender, it reset it all, so they couldn't. Right. They had to give me legally 2 more with a public defender.
I noticed that's something that because before I moved here, I lived in a smaller town.
Yeah.
And they didn't let you do that as much because they had less
traffic going through court. Right.
Yeah, the courts here, you're in a metropolitan area.
It's easier to fight in a bigger system.
Yeah,
too, because also like you have a lot more anonymity with the cops.
Right. Oh, that's a good point too.
Yeah. If you're in a small town, cops know who you are pretty quick.
Yeah. Like there's like I don't know if case manager is the right term.
Yeah.
Something like that, but they're agents within the court who do the scheduling and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And there's so many fucking people. Oftentimes you can call multiple times. Like, look, hey, I got something came up. Mm-hmm. My grandmother died again. Third time
and
this
the judge actually had to physically put in there that I wasn't allowed anymore. That's how they stopped it.
Yeah, that's how it was with me. The judge's like, no, we got to get this settled.
Yeah, and actually they red flag it in your court file.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I got arrested again.
But I think the good advice to that is even if you're planning to pay it, just fucking drag it out as long as you possibly can.
The thing is that the more money you
even
make
if it's a
them
fucking
spend,
parking ticket, just push it off.
It's like your way of getting back at them for like basically contracting you through violence,
right?
Through threats of violence.
Yeah, make it hard for them because you never know what's going to happen in the meantime.
Yeah,
because then eventually, if you keep pushing, especially if you're like fighting speeding tickets, this goes into the how to fight a speeding ticket type argument. Is that you keep pushing off, because every time it's scheduled, and if you can get it pushed off, then the cop has to show up to testify. If the cop doesn't show up, there's no fucking proof. They have to prove that you did that.
I'm here to tell you that when the cop shows up, there's still no proof. But that's separate. Yeah,
but it's different if they show up and they say, "Yeah, saw that guy doing whatever."
Yeah.
But if you catch it and you get lucky sometimes. Yeah. I've gotten lucky where I like, the cop didn't show up. No, case dismissed. That's all you do, and you save you some money in the long run. But always make it difficult for them. Don't make it easy for them to take money from you, regardless if you're right or wrong in the situation. At least make them earn the money they're already stealing.
At that same point, don't be like losing money taking off of work because you got to go file. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's costing you money and days missed from being productive, don't put up with that either.
I told everything. I would tell. I just started a new job and I've got training this week. Can I please get a pushback so I can be within this training window? That was a thing.
One of the things
that's always death in the family that works at least once. Yeah. You can get that. One of
my saving graces is that like I've always like sort of worked for myself.
Right.
So if I gotta miss a month because I'm dealing with some court shit, I'm poorer.
Right. Exactly.
But it's not going to ruin me.
Right.
It's not. I got and I also I'm lucky enough that I have people that really love me and they look out for me, and that's very important too. If you don't have that, you can't do this.
Right. You gotta have some kind of support system.
Yeah, you do
when you're fighting the man. So you got released, right?
Yeah, well, so I got released a year and a half later. I go and I hire a public defender, and then I go through the rigmarole, and then I go to fire my public defender.
Okay, why did you fire your public defender?
Because she legally can't ask the questions that I need to ask to properly legally defend me, and it was just a ruse all the time to just get up. And
I knew form of delay.
Yeah, because I thought that by firing her, they'd have to restart it again. So you know what I'm saying? Like it was. And so basically, the judge was calling me in front of him to just clarify what I wanted to do and try and talk me out of it.
Okay.
And so he stands me up in front of court and he goes, Mr. Tovar, your name is blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm sorry. Can you show me proof of jurisdiction and where you obtained it and where you're allowed to ask me any questions at all?
Right.
And he blows up. He just blows up. And I asked it pretty calmly. I was trying to be nonchalant about it because from everything that I've researched, this is what they do. You know, you challenge their authority even a little bit and they just lose it. And this guy was like textbook, I'm holding you into contempt. I'm giving you one more chance. And there's people in the court. And I was freaking everybody out because there was a room full of people there, you know, and they were all looking at me questioning this guy like he had no authority over me. And that's not something that people do in court. Right. You know, it's like someone standing backwards in an elevator. You just don't see it. Right. You know,
that's weird.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like psychologically it's disturbing. Right. And so they came and they sent the sheriff's deputy up and they sent me down and arrested me. But this time people knew where I was and I had a plan of action, I guess you can say. I had done more research in that year and a half. I knew what I needed to do.
And did you say what you got arrested for because he found you in contempt? So that was a new charge.
Yes, which got dropped.
Is that a misdemeanor? How is it? What is
misdemeanor? It's misdemeanor contempt.
Okay.
They can hold you for 48 hours on a misdemeanor contempt order.
Gotcha. And contempt is just a fancy word for not jerking off the judge.
Yeah, contempt is a fancy word for you're disagreeing with me and I'm going to threaten you with violence. Right. And it has no bearing. Here's the thing.
Because they can use that for fucking anything.
And here's how they get people because it's a social stigmata. You know, nobody wants to go and be like, I beat the government. I sat 3 days in jail. Right. You know, that's never going to, you're never going to impress your friends with that kind of talk.
Well, me.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Yeah, but you're kind of an odd duck.
Right.
You know?
To say the least.
So he brings me down and holds me in contempt, and I do my whole I'm not eating, I'm not drinking, but this time I mean it. Right. And they don't hold me in there for 24 hours because they already did that and they know they can't do it anymore, but they hold me in there for 12, 14 hours. And they send a really nice high up deputy to come talk to me or whatever, and he's really friendly and he gives me his business card and he's like, yeah, but if you don't go through the booking process, you know, we're gonna have to send people down here and they'll make you, you know, we'll get a court order and they'll make you. And I'm like, so you're threatening me with violence?
Did you ask him what he meant by they'll make you?
Yeah, no, I was like, so you're threatening me with, I said, all you have to do is tell me you're threatening me with violence and I'll do it. And he's like, I can't tell you that. He goes, but you know, if you don't do it, you know, we're gonna and I'm like, so you're threatening me? And he's you know.
So is it unlawful? And here's what the booking process is: you got to fingerprint yourself, you got to take a picture and all that stuff. So if you're just to sit, no, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to go limp, and I'm not. You're going to have to manually.
So that's very important. So here's what I said, I'm not here to cause violence. I'm not here to be a threat. I respect you and the job you do, and I want that to be perfectly clear to law enforcement. I butt heads with you guys all the time, ideologically. You guys are very brave, stupid motherfuckers. I appreciate what you do.
Right. Because, I mean, who are going to get to kill dogs?
I mean, to a point, I appreciate what you do. Let's put it that way.
So the point, why you want to clarify that, and I don't make sure I don't joke over.
I'm not a cop hater. I'm not. I mean, I disagree.
Not only that, but it's important to establish that you're not here to fight them. So if you're going to do this, if you're going to try to be this hard nut to crack and to fight the system, don't go in it with "fuck you, pig," and I'm going to kick your fucking ass. You're not going to make me do shit.
I did it from the point of a pacifist. And that's how you beat them because they have books written on how to deal with violent people, guys. Right. They don't have anything written to do about passive people. They just don't. And so I told them, I'm not going to cooperate violently. If you have a guy grab my hand and put it on the finger, I'm doing it out of duress. I'm going to sign X on everything you do. I'm not going to stand up in the thing. You're going to have a sheriff there with me in the picture box or whatever. Right. And so, you know, basically I have a 3-person detail walking me through the whole process. Mm-hmm.
Are you physically walking, or are you just okay, yeah, I'll go with you because you're touching me, or are you going limp and are they carrying
I'm not going to let them drag me, but when it's time to put my fingers on the fingerprint machine, you know, I'm making them physically do this, and then right at the last moment I'll jerk or do something.
You know what I would have done?
I'm not helping them.
You know what I would have done? I would have in my cell before they came and got me. I would have stuck each one of my fingers on my ass, and then made them do.
Next time.
There we go. What does that smell? It's justice, motherfucker. Motherfucking justice.
So anyway, they walk me through all that. The main head sheriff comes down and like he starts screaming at, "Why are you doing all this?" Well before that even like so they get me up in front of the lady who's like starts to ask me questions like, "Where do you live?" I'm telling you. Well, we're gonna send you back to your cell then. So I start walking back to my cell,
Right.
and then the two people shepherding me are like, "No, no, 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 no," and I'm like, "Well, she told me to go back to my cell. What's going on here?"
Right.
And so then they went and had a private conversation with her that she wasn't allowed to ask me any questions about like where I.
How was their demeanor? Was
Wasn't,
it confusion? Was it frustration?
Confusion and anger and frustration. Like the head sheriff, by the time he got back to me, like he reminded me of that first cop way back in the day that was like, "You better be doing jumping
Here's
jacks."
the dynamic between and this is kind of a little off the trail here, but it's so interesting to me of the amount of anger and frustration they get for you not
exercising your rights.
For exercising your rights, not giving them this godlike respect, and you're
just
not
treating them like humans, man.
Right, and just like not
recognizing
acknowledging
their
like, oh no,
authority.
you're just me, dude.
Yeah.
You're just me
with a uniform.
with a uniform on, or a costume, as one of our friends like to say.
Yeah.
But the emotional reaction, like do they not process that, dude? You are a human, or are they really convinced that they're
just
what it is.
They're
statism. That's what it is. It's a psychology.
They're
I am a little bit
hypnotized
better.
Yeah, they're hypnotized status, and it's basically it's a religion, man. That's when you really break it down, that's all it is.
Right.
And the guy was actually kind of cool with me after he yelled at me for a little. He's like, "Why are you doing this?" I'm like, "Well, because it's
talking about the head sheriff."
The head sheriff.
Yeah.
He's like, "Why are you doing this?" I'm like, "Well, because I can. It's my constitutional right. Why are you holding me here illegally?" And he goes, "Fair enough." He turns around and walks away, like he didn't give a shit. He just was wondering.
He didn't know how to process
Yeah,
that.
he didn't know how to.
It's so easy to respond to somebody who's physically fighting you, but
And
somebody
so-
who's fighting you with rights or with kindness and pacifity.
My
Am I saying that
argumentative
right?
style is very passive but questioning.
Right.
Like so, like the more you come at me, the more I'm just gonna feed your own ego back to you in question form.
Right.
And I was doing that with him, and like meanwhile, the shrink that had been sent to psychoevaluate me as part of this team is standing there, and I heard her whispering to the other guy, like, "Oh my God, this guy's pretty intelligent," like, you know.
Right.
And so they get through that, and then they put me up in my own ward essentially for like the next day and a half.
Okay.
Until the end of. So I'm supposed to go back in front of that judge like the next day, right?
Right.
I haven't eaten, I haven't drinking, balls in your cart. What are you gonna do for a misdemeanor? Walk back, to court, and like basically the judge was going to be like, put me back in front of me, like, what's your name? You're telling me your name, or you're going back in jail for 2 days. Well, I didn't have to do any of that. They let me out right away, no bond. I didn't have to pay any money that day to be let go on contempt.
Right.
Like the charges got dropped, and that guy was a retired Anoka County judge that, as far as my knowledge, is no longer practicing law in Hennepin County.
Okay.
So yeah, like and basically after that day they didn't want him anymore because of how he handled the situation. But he was basically going to call me back in front of him and then hold me back in contempt again. And my public defender that I had actually fired got it so that he wasn't allowed to see me anymore.
Okay.
And made it so that my next visit was really theatrical because I had yeah.
So is this? Are we getting to where you talk where you had the visit to your house?
Yeah.
Now, part of the reason they came was because you mentioned the sovereign citizen thing, right?
Yeah. So while I was in there, in the contempt order, right? By then I had done all my research, about like just the right questions to ask and just trying to establish jurisdiction and where they got it, And one of the first words that I used happened to I just labeled myself as a sovereign citizen,
Okay.
and I didn't know the ire that would bring at the time. Not that it brought much ire,
Right.
but it definitely got more attention than I thought it would get.
Right. And on this podcast, at least the original version, we talked. I actually interviewed a sovereign citizen, a self-proclaimed sovereign citizen before. And I don't think I have that episode up anymore or have it available. But just for anybody who hasn't heard the term, and I've got the dictionary definition of it, is a member of a political movement of people who oppose taxation, question the legitimacy of government, and believe that they are not subject to law. And it says here, like a little amendment to that definition, sovereign citizens may not respect cops/authority. Now, that's a trigger word now. Yeah. Sovereign citizens, and I guess in the government's defense, weird, there have been some violent incidents of sovereign citizens.
Absolutely, and I think it's because
shooting cops.
I think it's because it's a really noble idea to say that the state doesn't have any right to control you, right?
Right.
But it's another thing to practice that. It's another thing to stand up to a dude with a gun and say, "No, I will not listen."
Right.
You know,
my point is that I just wanted to clarify that there's not not every, because it's thrown around as a term of almost like terrorist now.
Yeah.
And it's really what it's looked at, and as we'll
like
see in your story here.
Yeah.
But not every sovereign citizen is out trying to overthrow the government or anything like that.
Right.
They just want separation from it.
Yeah, they just want to be left alone.
They want to be sovereign, which is by the definition of the word is be not
basically
under anybody's control.
Basically, what someone is saying when they tell you that they're a sovereign citizen is that they're saying, unless I cause you any harm to your person or something that you own, leave me alone.
Right. That makes sense. So, but you said that word.
Yes.
And that's where...
in some court documents that I filed while I was in jail. I wrote them in pencil.
Okay. So now you're out. You got released.
Yeah.
How did that play out for you?
So when you use those words... in your court documents, a lot of really cool special things happen. One is you get a special visit for a group of people that want to just talk to you, and the second thing is that when you go into court, for your next appearance, you don't go into a courtroom with anyone else.
Right.
Like, it wasn't just my own courtroom, Joey. It was my own court floor. Like, there wasn't anything else. Like, it was empty. It was just me, and that was it. You know, like no other, for a traffic court case, for a 2-year-old traffic court case. Right. You know, and basically, what had happened was
now I want to speculate, and you would be probably speculating too. I wouldn't think that the reason is not because they're not scared of you. It's because they don't know what you're going to say.
Exactly. They don't know what I'm going to do, man. They don't. I'm unpredictable,
and they don't want whatever
they don't want
anti-status propaganda you're going to say
while everyone else is trying to plead guilty to traffic citations.
Yeah, don't pee in the pool of state slaves.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they do. They separate you right away. They don't want you around anyone else doing any other kind of. And as a matter of fact, I read one guy that when he does get arrested, goes in there and actually starts talking to other inmates about how to get out of misdemeanor court, like traffic stuff.
Right.
And I don't recommend that at all, because the people in jail, you don't want to brag about only having misdemeanors, man. Like,
right. that causes a whole.
Yeah, it's really dumb.
Right.
Yeah. So I was given my own floor and my own specialty judge that was instructed that he could not hold me in contempt, no matter what I asked him, but that he was just to instruct me that basically they had jurisdiction because they said so, and all of my answers would be given in pretrial the next day.
And what is his attitude of was he hospitable? Was he agitated? I'm just trying to get a feel for the temperature of the room, the big empty room.
He had the feeling of a concerning dad that really just wishes you would get your report card together.
Was he trying to play nice?
Yes.
Okay, so he was trying to buddy you up a little bit.
Yeah, he's just trying to like answer my question by not really answering my question, just enough to placate me, to get me to realize that there was no way out of this. I had to play along with him.
Right. And if you want an example, you can find countless videos, some that end in favor of the citizen who's standing in front of the judge, and some that the judge is frustrated, like, fuck you.
And most of the time they end the latter, by the way.
Yeah, it's not like this is a fail-safe way to get out of trouble.
It's a very dangerous game of chicken, and I basically was at the end of my rope to where I was willing to play it with them.
Right, and some of them are just not even going to, even if you're right, you're still wrong.
Yeah.
So
basically, he wouldn't hold me in contempt, but he told me that if I didn't go to court the next day, that I would be... a bench warrant would be given, and I was calling him out, like I was like, write a bench warrant right now. I'm not coming back. Like, if you can't answer my questions today, why do I have to come back? I'm done here. If you can't answer my questions today, what are you going to do? Arrest me again? And I'm not going to.
That right there's a sign that they were going to crack, because why would they let you leave?
Yeah.
If I'm not going to answer anything. Okay, well we're going to let you go then.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a war. You're going to be back here tomorrow.
Who's
and I told him, I was like, come back.
I said, what are you going to do? Arrest me, and I'm going to come back and do the same thing, and you're going to be put in the same situation? And he's like, well, you have to come back tomorrow. And he wouldn't, he would just answer with that stock answer,
Right.
And I'm like, well, good luck coming and finding me. And I walked out.
Okay.
And and I had two, so by that time, my public defender went out and found someone better than her. And so I had two free public defenders at that time. And that guy was, supposed to specialize in driving infractions.
Okay.
And he was like all gung-ho to help me, but I was like, sorry, dude, you can't ask. Like, legally, you would be disbarred for asking the questions that I ask.
Really?
Yeah, because a lawyer is not allowed to ask a lawyer working for you is not allowed to ask a judge where he got jurisdiction, because a lawyer is part of that system. And that's what another thing that's really screwed up is that everyone says you're getting a free and fair trial, but the reality is that everyone in that system works for one team, the state. You don't work for that team, man.
Right.
You don't. You know, you're not Team State. Everybody else is. It's not there to be fair. It isn't. It's
But
there.
in Team State's defense, they got a terrific record. Like,
Yeah, they really do.
They're like the Patriots of government. They
Yeah.
just keep
Well,
going.
they make a lot of money every year in every state. You know, doling money out from the poor.
Right.
You know?
Stealing money from the poor. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he let you go. You didn't go back to court.
Yeah, for another couple of years.
Right. And the only reason you went back to court was
I got arrested walking down the street.
Right.
Yeah.
Not even driving this time.
Not even driving this time, which is really awesome. I don't think I'm not trying to test my luck here, but like I haven't been pulled over since 2012. Like I'm not a reckless driver.
So we're letting the listener know you're still driving dirty. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. But how'd they stop you on the street, walking down the street?
Someone had called in a complaint about like a fight a couple blocks away, like involving a gun or something, and so they were just like casing the neighborhood and saw me walking.
Right. Well, so you identified yourself?
No. So the cop gets out and he's like, "Oh, I'd like to see your ID," and I'm like, "I'd like to see yours," and he's like, "Oh, we got calls to someone, you know, with a gun in this area," and I'm like, "Well, I don't have a gun. You can search my pockets." And he's like, "I want your ID," and I'm like, "I'm not giving you that," and he put me in cuffs and took my ID.
Really?
Yeah.
So that was another constitutional violation there. Mm-hmm. Did you ever consider about filing a lawsuit for that?
They'd have to book me in order for me to file a lawsuit. They were too chicken to book me.
Oh, okay. This is where the story's going.
Yeah.
So he arrests you for not identifying. Did you have an ID on yourself, on your person?
Well, what was really funny, it was like, if you want me to identify myself, I'm going to have to speak to your boss, your lieutenant or whatever, your sergeant. Mm-hmm. And he goes, "Oh, he's coming." His tires are like squealing around the corner, and like these like 5 cop cars are converging on little old me. With no weapons at all, by the way, because I'm a.
Do they think you're involved in the shooting part? Or
they don't. At this point, I'm just a suspect who refuses to identify themselves. You know, I don't have any weapons on me, but they don't.
So their default is there must be this guy must be something bad.
Yeah, and after they legally obtained my information, they found out I had a warrant.
Okay. You know, illegally. Yeah.
Illegally obtained my information.
Okay, so and that warrant was the bench warrant for the appearance that the judge said you
told
better
me
be here tomorrow.
Yep. A year and a half before. Yep.
Okay.
So it finally caught back up with me, and like I was like, I wasn't not prepared for it, but you're never really prepared for that kind of experience. You know, like Anoka County, where I was originally taken, is not a friendly county in Minnesota. It's one of the worst counties in Minnesota, in my opinion. It's very
They have a lot of negatives there. I know that
they have a old insane asylum they turned into a jail for profit, for one. So you know, like all that misdemeanor stuff, just gets, you know, we're gonna put you in jail for 30 days. It's a workhouse.
It's not that. Like I hear like remember there was a big thing about gay people committing suicide there, gay kids.
Oh yeah.
There was that big bullying, like that whole county.
It's Sarah Bachman country, man. That's how I chalk it up.
And I don't want anybody who listens and there's some really good people in there. It's a nice part of the state.
Beautiful. Oh my God, it's those the asylum mansions that are up there. The asylum mansions that are up there. It's a beautiful town on the Rum River. Beautiful place.
Lots of good people, but your government stuff over there is fucking
it's
weird.
Really screwed up, man. So they take me back to the Anoka County Jail. We're booking you in, not booking in. I get marched back to my own cell by 4 sheriff's deputies that like basically like force me on the ground and search me while I'm like laughing at them.
Right.
You know.
Are they hurting you, or are they just physically?
I mean, it's painful, but like I respond to pain funny. You know?
Like but you're not resisting, and
no,
and they're not like punching you. They're just like manipulating.
No, I mean they threw me on the ground real hard. You know, they put a boot on my back and like pinned me down real hard while like 2 other deputies like went through me.
Okay,
know? So
they know. Did they make any mention of
standard intimidation tactic, basically?
But it wasn't like they know about you and you're our sovereign citizen or you're this. They make any kind of.
I'm sure at this point they have my record, but they don't know yet. They find out later the next day, though.
Okay.
So basically, they search me, you know, put me in my own cell, no shoes, no socks, whatever, blah blah blah. But it's a big cell. It's not like the Hennepin cells. It's like a whole huge drunk tank to myself.
Really?
Know? So like. I'm pacing. I'm in my own head. I'm having a good time. Like, this isn't bad at all, right? They get a couple hours later, they get a girl that needs her own cell, so I get put in with Gen Pop, and then it's not bad at all because you got TV and you're just listening to everyone's crazy stories,
Right.
You know, and that gets you through hours on hours. You can sit in there for your life almost.
Did you like? What are you in for? Like, I was walking
Yeah.
down the street.
So then they bring me back out after I'd been sitting in there, and I'm like, I'm totally comfortable with my situation, and they're like, oh, we need to get you booked in again because it had been shift change, and I'm like, all right, I told the last guys I'm not doing that.
Right.
But now they didn't have them. They're like a separate cell to intimidate me with. So now they have to like turn tail and put me back in with the general, like the drunks, you know.
Right.
And so they put me back in, and like every 4 hours, like for the next, I don't know, 8-10 hours, they bring me out, trying to, or like every couple hours, I guess, trying to get me to like book, and I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. And like they kept asking me, you know, why? I'm like,
What's their attitude now? Is it frustration, anger?
super frustration and angry. And the guy's like,
Like
why
cussing
would
at you? Or?
He's like,
Okay.
what? And I'm like, well, and whenever like the angrier they get, I'm just like, well, how many of you here have read the Constitution of the United States? And they all
Well,
fail.
hold on, officers. Let me
Yeah.
start where I need to. How many of you here can read?
Yeah.
Let's start with
Yeah, but I mean, they instantly, well, and they were like, well, how many of you understand the 14th Amendment? Well, what do you think it means? You know, and it's like, well, it doesn't matter what I think it means.
Did they do the line here? Oh, we got another wannabe lawyer, another jailhouse lawyer.
This is the only
It's my
thing that I
favorite.
really felt bad about in the whole experience is that like they decided that they were going to ship me to Hennepin without booking me in because I was too much trouble for them. So
Really?
like, yeah, but they didn't want me to look. They didn't want it to look like I was the only reason they were sending a special trip down to Hennepin. You know,
Right.
like they're still trying to like save face. So a guy had just paid to bond out, right? He had just bonded out, and he was just waiting for the papers to come back from Hennepin, and they
Right.
shipped him.
To the paper. No,
They
we're gonna
ship-
send you to the papers.
Yeah, they shipped him with me.
Right.
Because they just were just like, nah, we're just getting rid of this guy. We don't want anything to do with this guy. Like so I was arrested. Like
Because anytime
walking
you
home-
change their behavior and
Yeah.
make them do anything out of character or out of their procedures, then you win a little bit.
yeah.
And that's
Well, and those are the things that kept pushing me forward. Were just the small victories because
Right.
there's so many things against you. Like especially when you go in Hennepin County here, there's so many things that are against you. You know, like you're put in a really small deprivation tank. You know,
Mhm.
it's cold. Like you have to deal with. You're gonna in 24 hours. You're gonna get tired, but you can't sleep. You know, you have to find some way to get comfortable and get 10 minutes, 20 minutes of sleep in anywhere you can. You
Right.
know, there's tricks that you learn to get comfortable. You know, there's Zen mind tricks you do. You have moments of insanity where like all of your regrets and your past mistakes come up and haunt you, and you deal with all of that,
right.
all of that. You know, and at the end of it, like when they have to come out and let you into your own cell, and you have your shrink evaluation, and she gets you into your own room with your own like contact stuff.
Tell
It's
me about
comfortable.
the shrink evaluation. Well, what?
But they just want to know how suicidal you are and like how much of a threat you are to yourself.
So are you going off into like a clinical room where you're sitting down?
No,
and
well,
talking,
yeah, so-
or she just comes to your cell.
So she sat me down in basically an interrogation, like a one-on-one room, I guess.
Okay,
So
and is she an actual psychologist? Or something?
Yes.
Is she a cop, or is she just?
I don't know. I don't know if she's a cop. She's
One in uniform.
Whoever she is, she's their head shrinker who comes in and evaluates problems.
Okay, and what kind of questions is she asking at this
So
point?
she's asking me like, how sad I was, how suicidal I was, if I've ever had suicidal
Bitch, I'm in
thoughts.
jail. How sad do you think I am? This is fucking.
Well, and like the funny thing is like I'm not a suicidal guy. Like I'm a
Right.
pretty happy. Like despite all the things that life has thrown at me, I'm a pretty I love life.
Right.
And so, but I'm also not afraid to die. You
Right.
know, so it's a very interesting place to put yourself in.
Right.
And that's what I told her. I'm like, look, I have no inclination to want to die. Like I'm a very happy person. I don't have thoughts of suicide or death. But if you guys want to kill me,
I'll oblige. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll die for you.
yeah. I'm think about the lawsuits and the press I'll get.
right.
And she just kind of looks at me and she's like, well, and the thing is like,
Was she trying to make you motivate you in a way to like?
no,
was she
not at all.
suggesting You,
Not
so
at
she was
all.
just
So
really
she was
just
really
there
trying to
for-
help.
to
Yeah.
analyze. No,
No, as a matter of fact, I only got because I liked her so much, they didn't let me see her, but like, because that was like the one little ray of hope I had in that whole
Yeah.
crappy, yeah. So
Sorry.
like after that cycle, because what they wanted to do is be able to prove that I was a danger to myself, so that they could do more harm to me.
right.
And once they weren't able to do that, they got really frustrated.
Right. That's another thing. That's another little. There's lots of lessons here about how to
They
deal with
will-
the court system. Is
yeah.
Don't. If you're really suicidal, then yeah, I guess
Don't
say
do
it.
this. Don't
But
Well,
don't go in there
do
thinking
this.
that it's gonna get easier for you if you
No.
I'm gonna kill myself. You
No.
let me out of here. No, shit's
I
gonna
know
get
a guy.
fucking rough quick.
I know a guy that they used to talk about, and this is back when I was in Anoka County, and like the pay to play jail is right next to the actual insane asylum,
Of course.
right? And so if like you go into that with like a 30-day sentence and you go, well, I'm crazy, I'm suicidal, blah 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 blah, and you start like talking crazy to them, they'll lock you up for a year,
Right.
and they're legally allowed
to
to.
say that you lose a lot of rights.
Yeah.
Because then you become a ward.
Well,
of the
ward
state.
of the state, and that's completely different.
Yeah.
Than battling them. So you
and that's when
absolutely-
things
yeah.
like restraint chairs come into
Yeah.
play. Well, they also come into play if you're an
Yeah.
asshole.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if I'm suicidal, I'm gonna kill myself. Oh, are you? Well, let's take you down. You're gonna be completely
That's
naked.
the
They're
other
gonna
thing.
put a
That's
paper apron on
It's
you.
actually a very important point you raise. If you want to fight the state at all, you can't be a threat to yourself. You
Right.
have to know who you are.
Yeah,
If
'cause
you
then
have any
the-
doubt, they're going to prey on it.
Because then the court just stamps you
Yeah.
as mentally unfit to defend yourself or to represent yourself
And
in any
that's-
kind of way. And
Yeah, part of the way I was even
curtains.
somewhat successful is just because they realized that they weren't going to be able to deal with me like that.
yeah,
You know.
never do the suicide play
Yeah.
unless you're suicidal. Then
Unless you're
probably say
suicidal, then
something.
please get help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that. So you got done talking with her. What's the next step here?
So, are we going? So we're in 2015, right? So basically, when I got arrested, so the second time I went back, they didn't let me talk to the shrink at all. I went. They gave me 12 hours in their holding. So basically, after I got shipped from Anoka to Hennepin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get to Hennepin, still not going through your booking procedure. 12 hours in the holding cell. And this is after, I'd probably done another. So I'm going on like 27 hours by the time the nice sheriff comes to give me his speech about why I have to comply. And I've already done this before, and I let him know, like I'm not, I'll go limp. You guys can do the work, whatever. They don't give me the shrink that time because they've already had the psycho eval. They know they're not getting anywhere with me.
Right.
So they just put me in solitary confinement around some people that they knew wouldn't like me.
Okay.
And I at that point I had been like 30 plus hours without sleep by the time I got to my cell, so I just fell asleep to people just singing about how much they wanted to kill me.
Okay. Was it a good song or was it?
It was pretty dope. I mean, I'd sign them to a label.
So then what? How many hours are we in now?
So then they forgot about me for like a day and a half.
You're just up there.
Right. Well, because then you're just waiting for your turn to go in front of the judge or whatever, and because you're a problem, they put you in the last. And basically the sheriff's like, well, we only got him right now, so we're not responsible for him for another 30 hours. We can just mess with this guy all over again. And that's the other thing is like if you do get transferred, like it's not going to get any easier when you get to the place where you're going. Like you're going to have to go through everything. Every single person you meet, you're going to have to do the same thing over and over. You're going to have to ruin so many people's days.
Right.
And so 2015 happens.
Did we already miss? I can't remember. Did you mention about the visit you got because of?
Yeah, we talked about it briefly. Like,
Okay.
do you want me to go into that?
Yeah, go into
further?
that deeper because if we missed it, then I apologize.
So back in 2012, right? So the people that visited me. So this is why the day that I had my own courtroom to myself.
Right.
The day I had my own courtroom.
That's
to
what it was. I
myself.
looked up the definition and we got
Yes.
sidetracked. This is going back. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
listeners. We're going back just a little bit when he mentioned sovereign citizen movement and what it triggered and everything.
Yeah.
This is what happened after he got released that first time. Pre the random arrest when you got arrested in the street.
So, yeah, exactly.
So go into detail about that.
Basically, so the morning that I was supposed to go to court for the whole judge's appearance, where I had the whole floor to myself, two FBI agents showed up at my girlfriend's house,
Right.
which is an address that I didn't. I was living below the grid,
Right.
like I was no mail there, no nothing, like it was pretty under the radar.
You didn't have an ID with that address.
I didn't have an ID at all at that
Right,
time.
okay.
Like it was like getting stuff notarized was kind of a challenge,
Right.
And so yeah, it was like just kind of an astonishment, and they were very friendly. They asked for permission to come in my house. They were very adamant about not entering my house without permission.
Let's take it step by step. So they're knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Did you look out the window
7:00 in
see
the morning, and there's just two dudes, and like one of them's like very
7 in
very,
the morning? Fuck you,
yeah,
government. That's too early.
very, 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 very ex-military. One of them,
Okay.
like the kind of guy who's like,
Crew cut.
this guy's special ops.
Right.
He's at my house at 7:00 in the morning.
Okay.
You know.
Did you immediately think I guess I'll give it away. FBI? Did you think FBI or did you think cop or what did you think?
Cops maybe, but I was like, well, I'm going to court. What are they going to escort me there? They're going to write me so. But then they introduced themselves, and then, like, it was my astonishment. I was like, holy crap! I got that much attention. Like, this is neat.
Okay.
Like I was just kind of set back. I didn't understand. Like,
Did you have a I fucked up moment?
no.
Okay, you still
No,
thought-
matter of fact, I think I held my own pretty decent against them as far as like, because I invited them into my house, and
Right.
they wanted to know
because that's regardless of what you don't even know why they're there yet for the most part. That's a ratchet up moment. I mean, it's like I've talked to a lot of cops. I've had a lot of cops interaction. I've only talked to a few FBI agents, and it's never because they were asking me about anything that I did.
Here's the thing,
and it still feels different.
Once you realize that you're not afraid of them killing you in jail,
right?
Their power over you kind of diminishes a lot. Like
right.
a lot. Like it doesn't matter how. Like what's the worst he can do to me? Kill me?
Yeah.
That's you know what I'm saying? Like
something they do. Yeah,
it's non-existent. We all have to face that journey sometime. So if that's my journey, then that's my journey.
Right.
And that's just how I've come to grips with it.
Okay. So what do they say to you? Why are they talking to you?
They want to know if I'm a part of any sovereign citizens group or movement that's in the state of Minnesota, because there are several that are in this state.
Okay.
And they wanted to know that. Basically, if I was a privy to anybody talking about any kind of terrorist activities, would I be willing to inform them?
Okay. And another thing I want to point out, for our pre-discussion, you had an active bench warrant at this time, right?
At this time, no, because I'd already dealt with it. That's why I was going back into court to deal with this cop.
You didn't have anything that they wanted?
No, but so this was the day that the cop wrote the bench warrant where I was like, well, come find me. Write that bench warrant now. Right. That was the same morning.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I was so belligerent, because I was like, well, the FBI already knows where I'm at, so come on, guys, come get me.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I was like, come get me.
No, I get it.
I didn't tell them that the FBI had already. I told my attorney, after the court, I was like, oh, by the way, you should probably know that the FBI has been to my house, and then she was like really like taken aback by it too.
Okay.
So
all they cared about, they didn't give a damn about. Why the fuck would the FBI to give a fuck about a ticket?
No, well, as soon as they found out that all I wanted to do was cause the state enough money that they stopped bugging me, they just kind of laughed and said, "Good luck."
Right.
They asked me. So
it was more of a. This is not like they were coming to harass you. It was just like practice for them. Like when that word comes up, we got to come knock.
Well, they left. They left when they were like, if you knew about someone that was going to do any kind of harm to somebody, would you tell someone? Right. And I looked at the straight cut military guy, and I'm like, well, you look like you've served some time in the military, right? Like you've served some time and probably had to hurt people in your profession, and he just does that silent, like, tough guy nod or whatever.
Right.
And I was like, well, who do I warn about you?
Right.
And he goes, we're done here. And like him and his friend, like just kind of like meander out or whatever, and they laughed.
Well, let's take a second to appreciate how ridiculous that is. Anyway, like how many times do they go to the door and like, hey, you know anything's gonna happen? Oh yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and tell you that we're getting ready to do this. Oh, thanks FBI.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
Another case solved.
Maybe they were just looking for an informant. I'm too ignorant to realize they were asking for help.
That's true. And I guess there is a degree of some people react differently to law enforcement, and like I said,
I'm never gonna help any law. Like
it's a ratchet up on the FBI, so maybe they do get scared and maybe I need to say something. Yeah. Let's talk.
Well, and I guarantee you it's to let me know that I'm being watched for sure. Like,
right.
And I take that with a grain of salt, because like they watch me like they watch anybody else, and I'm like, I think that I established that day that I'm not really much of a threat.
Right, but you still get on a special list when you use those words.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm on a very, very special list. Right. I know that. Yeah.
You're very one. Okay, so anyway, back
the
on,
right one.
I want to make sure we didn't we went into detail about that, because that's just didn't really affect the drive without a license, tickets, and all that stuff. But it was just an interesting thing.
Yeah, it's interesting that for misdemeanors you can get the FBI called to your house, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So 2015, I'm in jail. The prosecutor finds me a day and a half later after I've been transferred to Hennepin. Right. He like immediately like gets me like kind of like the special session where I go in front of a judge, and there's other people there, but like they basically say for $100 you can get out on bond. And keep this in mind that when I was first arrested, it was like I think it was like $5,000 bond or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was $10,000 bond, because my girlfriend had to was going to put up $1,000.
Right.
And I actually had to call and tell her to take her money back.
Okay.
Because the way it works is if you give them any kind of money, you're just forfeiting that.
It's the same thing as signing the ticket. You're agreeing to
you're agreeing,
joining into a contract.
Your money is technically a signature,
and your signature is acknowledgement of their authority.
But For $100, I'm absolutely willing to sign, right? Because at that point, I had been in jail for 4 days, and I'm like, well, am I going to die for $100? You know, like, and you have those moments where, you know, you haven't eaten or drinking for 3 or 4 days, and you have those, like, really, like, come to Jesus moments where you're just like, dude, your life is on the line. Like, it's about to be the weekend. Like, are you going to hold these guys up for another 2 days while you prove your point? Or are you going to give them $100 and go home and eat a steak?
Right.
You know? And I chose $100 option. You know, it was way less than the $1,000 that my girlfriend was going to have to cough up.
Right.
You know.
Now this again was for the contempt.
They wanted $10,000 on the bench warrant when I walked out of the judge, and I told him that he better write a warrant for me that day or I wasn't coming back.
Okay.
So they wrote a $10,000 misdemeanor bench warrant for me that day.
Okay.
Which is insane to me for a driving offense that they would hold you on that much money. That's crazy.
Okay. So when you bonded out on the $100.
Yeah.
After the, you know.
So then they had a retrial schedule, right? And so the lawyer that found me in 2015 was different than the lawyer that found me in 2012.
And this was a trial for the driving no license.
For the same license from 2012,
okay.
Right? Same trial, all like same congruent, like interrupted.
3 years
I
down
strung it out that long,
right?
On purpose, like as long as I could. I wanted to cost them as much money as I humanly possibly could,
right?
Because I want them to know that, like, every time they interact with me, it's going to cost them money. You know, I guarantee you, they spent more than $100 and the time that it took, the money that it took them to keep me in jail.
Right. So if they're going to come for you, make sure they come for you for something worth it.
Yeah, right. Because basically, they held me in jail for 4 days and they got $100 out of me, you know. Right. And when this all began in 2012, they were threatening me with 90 days in jail and like a $1,500 fine. Like they were coming at me for real, you know. And 90 days in jail, like I can afford a month in jail. I can't afford 90 days in jail. Are you kidding me? Like I was turning into that guy that I was afraid of, and that's why I was just like, no, we're not doing that.
Okay. And
because I did it my way, I got out for significantly less.
Okay.
I paid him $100 and I sat for 4 nights in jail.
So when you're going back, and now it's speed up just for essence of time. Now it's time for the trial.
Yeah.
Right. What are you doing in between getting bond and then the trial? Are you having any interaction with law enforcement or anything?
No. So from the time I had bonded out for that $100, that was the end of the interaction. Like the FBI came and looked me up in 2013, but like in 2015, you know, they knew my shtick. They didn't give a crap. They knew shit.
So now you go to trial.
Mm-hmm. And it's basically,
are you representing yourself or do you have a lawyer?
No, so basically I had the defender that basically sat down and reviewed my whole case with, I'm guessing, a big group of people to try and discuss what was the best option to just get me out of everyone's hair, right? And what they came up with was...
Are you in court by yourself? Is this a...
Yeah, same thing. So whenever I go to court for the rest of my life, I won't go to court with like normal people anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I won't ever, and I'd put money on that right now. You'll never see me in a regular courtroom again.
Like you can't be on the People's Court on television for sure.
Maybe.
Definitely.
I mean, but I'm just going to ask Judge Wapner where he got his jurisdiction.
Especially now that he's dead. Isn't he dead now?
Yeah.
Okay.
He definitely doesn't.
Case closed, Wapner.
Well, one of the questions I asked, I was like, well, where does your jurisdiction end if you have jurisdiction? If I jaywalk, do you have jurisdiction? Do you have jurisdiction of me now? If I walk across the street backwards, do you have jurisdiction? I just started asking them all these wacky, stupid questions, you know, like, because they can't answer any of them because they don't have an answer of where their jurisdiction starts and where it ends because there is no legal definition.
Again, without getting into the weeds of that.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
Yeah.
Again, Charlie Sprinkle, Mark Stevens.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of the cornerstone of that argument? Is just the jurisdiction?
Yeah, it's just basically. So what I've been taught to do is to plead guilty, actually. But it's how you plead guilty that is effective with them, right?
Okay.
So what you do is you write out a statement that says, "I'd like to plead guilty upon understanding of the terms," right? Like I want to get through this as simply as possible, and there's you can get forms on how to write this up correctly and legally, you know, and you can get it notarized or whatever. And basically it says that, hey, I plead guilty, but tell me how you got jurisdiction. Like, I just want to get this over with. If you tell me how you gained jurisdiction and got the right to charge me this, absolutely, I plead guilty. I don't want any part of this.
Right. So you see, by not asking that or not delving into that, you're
putting the burden back on them. Is what you're doing.
Well, you're putting a burden on you because you're accepting the
guilt.
You're accepting their jurisdiction, their authority without question.
And they won't accept a guilty plea. And that's the craziest thing is they won't accept that guilty plea. They absolutely will not accept it
if you don't accept their authority.
Yeah. And the way I got rid of it is not that way. The way I got rid of it is threatening them with that until they gave me $100 fine.
Right.
And then I still had to go in and say, yes, sir, I'm guilty. Yes, sir, I'm guilty of this. But I didn't have to sit.
What did you plead guilty to?
Driving after cancellation.
Okay. So they didn't worry about the insurance part of it?
Nope.
They didn't worry about the contempt of court?
Nope. They dropped everything except one charge. And it was basically, they said that they were going to take the $100 that I'd already posted, and that was the fine, and I had to sit one more night in their workhouse.
Oh, it wasn't another 100. It was 100 they took you to
yeah,
the
they
bond.
didn't, they didn't get, because I told the lawyer right away, I was like, he's not, like, that money that you have, that's it. That's all you're getting. I don't want it back. I'm not giving you another dime. If you want more than that, take me in.
Right.
And so they knew that. They knew that right away.
So that was it. Case is done with.
Yeah.
I mean, you still got your fines and stuff.
Still my fines. I still,
But right now you have no
warrants, no active anything like
in the state of Minnesota.
I'm still actively canceled in the state of Minnesota and the state of Arizona for sure.
But that has nothing to do with this here.
And I'd really love to see what a cop would see if he ever got behind a car that was registered to me. But I'm not brave enough to ever find out.
Wow. So kind of wrapping up here. Right before you were done, you had a conversation with somebody in the court. Was it your lawyer?
So before I left that day, I was pulled aside by
after the decision was made in the court?
After I pled guilty and yes sir, no sir, my way out of the courtroom.
Okay, and for clarification, what lawyer are you talking to?
My public defender.
Your public defender.
My public defender from 2015.
Gotcha.
Pulls me aside. As a matter of fact, my public defender in 2012 gave me the same recommendations. Okay. Which is basically told me how to drive without getting caught.
And what did they tell you?
Don't drive cars that register to your name. They said that's the only reason you're getting pulled over. Just stop that.
Okay. Did they say anything? Did they give you any idea of how the court was looking at you? That are they trying to tell you that the court just doesn't want to deal with you? Here's how to. Was there any suggestion?
I've had a couple lawyers even trying to help me find legal litigation to help me in Arizona. But it's kind of like because I had pled guilty and it's already like post trial. There's not really much you can do
because you've already
submitted
to that authority.
And as criminal as selling someone's legal debt off to a third party is, it's completely legal in Arizona.
What I was asking was were they trying to give you? Did they give you a message, or was it suggested in any kind of way that they don't want to deal with people like you anymore? Did they say that? Like, look, you got to stay the fuck out of here because you're fucking rocking the boat, homie.
There was this old timey like Barney Fife dude back in 2013 when I got held in contempt, right? And like when they were marching me back up when I thought I was going to have to go back in front of that Anoka County judge. Right. This guy pulls me aside and he goes, "Hey man, I really love and respect what you're doing." He goes, "So many people get trapped up in this system and fall victim to it and have no idea how to fight it." Right. He goes, "Please get out of this as soon as you possibly can. Go live somewhere quiet and small for as long as you can until they reach you." Right.
So that frustrates the fuck out of me because I
was told that by a state employee.
He's still
by a state employee who's breaking the law by illegally holding me against my will.
Fuck you, buddy.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
I mean, it was endearing because he was an old man, but like after the fact, yeah, absolutely. Like it was empowering.
Maybe you just figured it out too late in life. Wait a minute.
It was empowering because it was like I was 48 hours into like starving myself and like going without water, and like to have someone on their side of the argument go like, "Yeah, keep on fighting the good fight." Like that's kind of empowering. It pushes you on. Right. All
right. Well, let's wrap this up with this and remind me again. When you came to Minnesota, what did you owe at that time?
The magic number. It's a little.
Well, before. I don't
okay, so before.
Right when you moved here, you had a number.
In 1998, 99, 2000, it was $1,200.
Okay, $1,200.
Matter of fact, it was a one-time pay thing at $1,200 that they gave me 3 months to pay.
So right now, today, give or take, what do you owe right now?
It's well over $8,000. It's well over $8,000.
Now, how does it go from $1,200 and tickets or whatever, that's fine, and then to $8,000? What happened? What happened with your fine and all that?
Well, you ignore it for 20 years.
Okay. But what's their process?
But I mean, it didn't take 20 years for that fine to accrue that much money. It only took, by the time I had tried to get a Minnesota license in 2000, it was already, I think, like $7,600. Okay. And then in the last whatever, it accrued another $1,000 or so on top of that.
But what I'm getting at is you told me what they did with that debt, because that was a debt.
Yeah. And
then the court did what with it?
They sold it to a third. So in Arizona, if you are delinquent on your debts, they sell it to a debt collector, a third party, a third party entity.
See, there's something really
Yeah.
wrong about that. About the fact, I get it if they want to do the court
it's
thing
super
and like
criminal.
Yeah, like, but how do you going to take a third party and put state issue fine or federal issue fines, depending on the court, and put it on a for-profit business that will allow them to put
That has no statute of limitations on collecting that debt, by the way. Like
right
on a credit card,
because it goes in private.
yeah, because
The
a credit card
and
collector
private.
only has 5 years, and after that 5 years, they can't legally force you to pay that money back anymore. But a state fee, a state fine,
Right.
a state debt is something that will stick with. I'll have this when I'm 80 years old if I don't pay it,
But and I get that part of it, but I'm like, how the fuck can they?
regardless of
They
how
need
clean
to.
my
They
driving
should
record is.
maintain control of that debt. It's not like
Yeah.
the government went out of business because like if a business like a
Well,
like a
and from
tax,
a legal
like
from a legal standpoint, that third party paid my ticket.
oh,
You know, like my debt has been paid to
Well,
the
see,
state.
that sounds
the state's
even
been
worse.
paid. Yeah, the state's been paid by a third party.
it's like they're buying a
they
financial
settled.
slave.
They settled by a third party without me present to be part of that negotiation.
Dude,
Yeah,
I don't think I even appreciated how bad that part of it was
Yeah.
until just now.
they got paid. The
Because
state has
they-
been paid for my debt. The
That's a
state has
pri-
absolutely been paid.
Then how?
Yeah,
I don't get how they can't give you your license then if the ticket's been paid.
because they won't release it until that third party's been paid. That third party has more rights
that's
than
what
I
they
do.
bought was the
Yeah.
right to hold
The
that.
right to hold it.
Holy fuck, dude.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's something. It's not every state like that, right? Not
No,
every.
thank God. But a lot of southern states, especially Phoenix,
Arizona can
Arizona's
do
really
that.
bad. Yeah,
I hope everybody gets that.
Texas is probably pretty bad.
Because it's a state and it's a private entity
Well, people have to
that
realize
technically
yeah,
has your life.
yeah. The state is never going to be for individual rights. People have to understand that. And some states are worse than others.
Right.
Right. Like, you would never catch me dead living in anything south of the Mason-Dixon this day and age because the statists down there are crazy. They're freaking crazy. They're trying to take control of women's rights right now. You know, they're
Right.
trying to point guns at people's heads and say we can control your body better than you can. That's
Right.
insane to me. You know. And as someone who someone who came from a background who thinks that the state should take care of people, I am now in a position where I know that nobody can take care of me better than me, and that's I think a big disconnect that people have.
Right.
You know, is that understanding that you don't need other people to fight your battles. You don't need other people to buy your food. You don't need other people to pay for your health. You know,
Right.
you can live and die a happy person. You know. And die of a knee injury at 45.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing that says you have to live to your 80 years old.
Right. Well, with
But we have this construct, this social construct that makes us all believe that you're allowed to point a gun at my head and say that you have rights for my money to pay for your medical coverage
Yeah.
or for your kids' schooling or for...
and for clarity, just for people listening who follow me, this is kind of one of those conflicting things for me because
Yeah.
to me, like, and I
It
always
was
use
for
this
me
example,
for a long time.
I believe I don't have a problem with taxation. I have a problem with taxing, being taxed by an ethical and
Without
criminal government.
representation.
Yeah, and that's
That's
too.
my argument.
But mine more importantly is like, what are they using that tax for, and
Yes.
how's it being mismanaged,
Yes.
things like that. Because I believe in an idea of a tax system that's voluntary.
Yes.
Right. That I would love to contribute to an ethical and honest government and give it to
And
them.
imagine what a
and have them pool our money together
Yeah.
and use it resourcefully
Yeah.
and not waste it.
Imagine what a
and
country
create
with
safety
300
nets and
million
things like that.
people could do with a voluntary tax system that wasn't focused on war all the time.
Right.
Imagine.
Yeah. But this is what ruins it, though. This is
Yeah.
the examples you're doing right here.
Argument
That's
as old as time, man. This is an argument as old as time. States' rights versus the individual's rights. Yeah.
But dude, that's beyond that because they sold you your
Corporate
ability,
rights,
your
matter
freedom.
of fact. Yeah, because
your-
in this case, corporate rights have
To
more
a
rights than
private-
I do. Yeah.
to a private fucking company
Yeah.
owns a piece of you, a substantial piece of you that's never going to go away anywhere because it's been sold off. How is that ever fucking
Kids, if you're driving and you're young, remember this, man. Like, you might think you're invincible now, but life has repercussions way past when you lose that invincibility.
Right. And again, it's not every fucking state that can do that. But
No,
Jesus
it's not.
Christ.
No. Nope.
Okay, Frank, I appreciate the conversation and
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad I don't talk about this with a lot of people. You know, people ask me about the status of my license, and I give them short answers or I lie to them a lot. You know, just
Right.
because it's way easier than telling people the truth. You know, like I've had fundraisers before in the past, and
Right.
like I raised like a quarter of what I needed to raise, and then my girlfriend had a stroke, and I had to pay her rent, you know, for a month or two, and like it's just. I'm not trying to like be like woe is me, but like I've always just kind of been in a situation where I'm like, yeah, I can pay this off, and then something happens, and
One more question:
Yeah.
Have you? Is there anything that this people who own this debt have to give it up? Is there anything to do? Is it?
I haven't even checked on them in a couple of years to see if they're even a relevant company, dude. Like they could have totally went belly up and like just completely.
Oh, bro,
screwed
I'll be
me.
checking that like every day. Like, hey, you
Yeah.
still in business? Okay, I'll
No, I
talk to you
did
tomorrow.
for like 6 months. Like I knew every legal secretary's person's name in Arizona because I would call there every day and ask them if they're willing to bargain with me. And like not once, they would all just like put me on hold for half an hour and tell me no. And I did it for 6 months, man. Like I would love. The thing is, like, if it was something rational, like if someone would call me and be like, all right, you know what, it's been 20 years, pennies on the dollar, give me $1,500, $2,000.
Yeah.
I would have that money right now. You know,
I'm
my
calling.
problem.
It seems like they would have to
know
want
what
to
the-
negotiate it this time. 'Cause
You know, the really like I could borrow money. I know people that love me enough that I can get that money.
Right.
But I don't have the personality to do that.
right.
I just don't. You know, I only take what I know I could return.
That's a pre-tax quarter year's earnings for the average person. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of
Yeah.
money.
Well, and I could be put on a payment plan too. That's not saying that I couldn't be put on a payment plan. But before, the tickets that I were getting were cheaper than the $8,000, and now that I kind of like know how to work the system, I'm just not as afraid of them as I used to be.
Do you remember what the original tickets, the value of those tickets were originally? Before, like, if you would have just went in and took care of it right away, are we talking?
So
$1,000
I mean,
bucks?
the guy gave me a deal for $1,200, but I think it was like $1,800 to $2,200.
Okay, so that was the
eventually.
maximum of what it could have been.
Yeah,
And now all
in
this is-
1998.
is a
Yeah, in
cured
1998, I think it was like $1,800 to $2,200, and that's
Dude,
and mind
Arizona, charge him $1,800 and drop this shit.
I
This is
think
fucking
I think it
ridiculous.
was like back in 1998.
Well, I guess
I'm
it's not
sure it's like
Arizona.
crazier now, but back in 1998, it was like $800 for a no proof of insurance ticket. That was a lot of money back in 1998 for a kid
a lot
just
of money for
barely.
me now.
Yeah, you know.
Okay.
And so getting nailed with 2 of those in a row, and then a speeding ticket, essentially, like I was drowning in that. There's no, and the thing is like I quit school for 2 months, got a spare job, and like the best I could do was $800.
Right.
You know, like
Wow. Look,
Yeah.
dude, we're gonna end it here. But if I win the lottery,
yeah,
I'm paying your shit like right now.
Yeah,
Like, we're gonna go down there and like bring $8,000 worth of
nickels.
pennies.
Yeah,
Oh, fuck nickels, pennies.
pennies. Yeah.
Throw it on their fucking desk and tell them to go fuck themselves.
Legally, they don't have to accept that anymore, though. Didn't they write a law, or some states are starting to do that?
Oh,
'Cause
right.
People are doing it.
They don't even want they want your money. They don't, but they want to tell you how to give it to
Yeah,
them.
you better win that lottery quick for them to pass a law.
Fuck that. I think I'm ending this podcast as a libertarian right now.
I
I'm just
converted
kidding.
one.
I'm nobody. I refuse to differ. Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, there we go. Another episode of the Filter Free America podcast is now coming to a close. Did you enjoy that one? That was kind of a different one, a little bit interesting there, a little bit of, again, like I said in the beginning, a little bit of an obscure topic, but I thought it was going to make for an interesting conversation, and it did. There you go. You heard about Frank and his ongoing battles of not having a license. So yeah, it was very, very interesting. I don't know, a lot of that stuff I didn't even know, and I've been guilty of driving without a license myself too. So it's very interesting to hear his struggles and his conflicts, and yeah, anytime you do something that leads to the FBI coming to your door, well, that probably would make for a good podcast episode, and it did. Yeah. So anything else? I don't know. Right. Big shout out again to the Filter Free America podcast sponsor, simplewebsite.us. Thank you, folks. Appreciate what you do. And you, the listener, I absolutely appreciate you. Because of course, as always, if I wasn't talking to anybody, if you weren't listening, this would all be a fruitless endeavor on my part. But let's bring it to a close here, guys. Guys, I love you. I hope you guys are doing well in the world. If you're not doing well, I hope things get better, right? And positive vibes going out to you. Make sure you guys spade and neuter your pets and children. Make sure you keep seeking the truth. And I don't know. What Father's Day just passed? Yeah, Father's Day just passed. Make it into your positive project this week is if you have a father in your life, or somebody who's a father figure, or just a random father that you like, do something nice for the father, right? Do something nice for who your father is. Unless it's like a Catholic father and they touched your butthole, don't do anything nice for that father. But any other kind of father, fucking give him a hug, give him a high five, take him to a basketball game, buy him a hooker, whatever it takes to make that father happy, do that. All right, guys, we'll talk to you in the next episode. I love you. Bye. Bye.